everybody. It is December 9th, 2021. Mr. Shepard, you're going to have to let us get started here. Thank you. December 9th, 2021. This is a meeting of the General Policy Committee. And just so y'all know, I must be walking out this door at 4:45. So hopefully we still have quorum, and if y'all need to keep going, then you'll be able to. But I have got to leave no later than 4:45. So with that, is there a motion to adopt our agenda? Second. Motion and second to adopt our agenda. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. First order of business is approval of some minutes from the September 23rd and October 28th meeting. Are there any additions, corrections, or is there a motion to approve? Second. Motion is second to approve those sets of minutes. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? That motion passes. All right, so our first order of business today are some board appointments. We have the Citizens Advisory Board for Community Development and the Historic Preservation Board. Let's go ahead and start with the Community Advisory Board for Community Development. It's just one open student seat for a term ending on September 30th, 2022, so just less than a year from now. And we have two applicants, Omar Hernandez and Kathleen Palencia. Are either Mr. Hernandez or Ms. Palencia with us today and like to introduce themselves? Right, yeah, so come on up. Yeah, come on up. Right to the lectern here. The microphone is above you, so you don't have to speak anything but normally. Just tell us who you are and why you're interested in serving on this board.
Yeah, thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Omar Hernandez, and I'm a master's student in Sustainable Development Practice at UF. I will be here for 2 years, and I am part of the Path to Purpose cohort, in which we are engaging with communities and choosing a specific topic that we would like to help in the community going against to develop. In my case, it's, for instance, my interests are creating economic opportunities for homeless. So, like trying to think about create synergies between, well, something bigger than some current approaches. So I would like to join this board and see, and if possible, like offer help to anyone who would like to, have an intern or something like that. Support any initiative that you have.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for your interest and thank you for taking time to be with us today and letting us know who you are. Appreciate that. And do we have Ms. Palencia with us? Okay, so Commission, any desire anybody want to put a motion on the floor? Go ahead.
I move that we add Mr. Omar Hernandez to the Citizen Advisory Board for Community Development.
Okay, motion is second that we appoint Omar Hernandez to the Citizen Advisory Board for Community Development for the student seat ending in September of next year. Any members of the public wish to speak to the motion? Do we have folks calling in today? Adam's with us. Hey Adam, how are you?
Hello Mayor, how are you?
I'm wonderful, thank you. You have anybody that wants to speak to the motion to appoint this individual, Omar Hernandez, to the Citizens Advisory Board for Community Development?
No sir, there is nobody on the line at this time.
Okay, very good. Back to the Commission. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, sir, for your willingness to serve. We really appreciate it and good luck. All right, the next one is not so straightforward and easy. We have 18, I believe, yes, 18 applications for 9 positions on the Historic Preservation Board. There's 6 partial terms and 3 full terms. The full terms expire in June of 2025, and then 3 expire in June of 23 and 3 in June of 24. And so, Commissioner Santos, I think you wanted to ask a question of potential candidates before we started deliberating and potentially voting, and we'll also ask anybody that's applied for this board to come up and introduce themselves and also potentially answer that question if you so desire. Commissioner?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just if the people who are applying for the board, just one question for you. If you don't have to address it, but if you want to. The question is, what are your thoughts on addressing the exclusionary zoning nature of our historic districts and the upward pressure those exclusionary policies have on housing prices that we see in historic districts?
Okay, and if you want any clarification on that as you come up to speak, you're welcome to go ahead and do that. Commissioner Sacco, did you have a question?
Yeah,
Or
it was-
a comment before we get started?
It was more of the, how we voted the other day for the GCRA, if we could replicate that model, given that there's a
Yeah.
lot of people to agree to, and if we could just do like whoever.
I
gets the most
concur.
votes.
Without objection, we'll sort of ballot, and the top vote getters will get the longest terms on down to the shortest, and if we need to do some tiebreakers, we'll go back and just kind of pull those folks out. I think that's a great idea.
Thank you.
All right, so are there any applicants here for Historic Preservation Board that'd like to introduce themselves and tell us why they'd like to serve? And if you would like to answer the question from Commissioner A. Santos on exclusionary zoning, then you're welcome to do so. Mr. Hill? Yep. Welcome.
Welcome. Hello, members of the board, Mr. Mayor, commissioners, City Manager Curry. First off, I want to say thank you guys again. It's been an honor to serve on this board, and I just want you guys to know, and I'm going to say this very short and simple. I'm just getting started. There's a lot to do with the Gainesville Historic Districts, and I think that I have a lot more work to do here, and you know, I've learned a lot, and I would like to serve more on the board. And to Commissioner Hayes Santos' question, it's very an interesting situation because what you did say is very valid. It is true that unfortunately, in historic districts, house prices tend to go up. However, though, if you look in Apalachicola, if I'm correct, there is a nonprofit that actually has been doing a thing where they preserve shotgun houses while also trying to preserve the affordability of those houses. I know that that's the only example I can think about in Florida where that issue is being combated that you addressed. So, you know, if you want, I can send you over the information to all that so you can look at it. I think it's a very cool thing because they're balancing historic preservation and affordability, and that's something that we need, you know? So yeah, one thing I would just say, like, please consider me to be put back on the board. Like I said, I will be sending you guys a document that I created this year in regards to Pleasant Street. I would love for your critiques and input. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hill. Appreciate it. Thank you. Is there anybody else that's applying for historic preservation that'd like to introduce themselves? In the chamber, in the room with us today? Anybody? Adam, do you have anybody that's calling in that's applying for the Historic Preservation Board? Or, I'm sorry, Kristen, was I supposed to ask you?
Mayor, there's nobody on the line here.
Okay, thank you.
I did hear from a few of them that they had planned to be here, so I'm unsure why they didn't show up. Marie, I don't think anyone asked me for the Zoom details, so nobody should be in Zoom, so I'm unsure.
Could they be in the chamber?
I don't think it's open.
No, I mean, my communications with them were specific details on how to come down here for room 16, so
Okay.
they did have that information.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I see names on here that I think were on the board, but they're not listed as reapplying. Some people are listed as reapplying, some folks are not. Mr. Hill, I think, is reapplying, is that?
Yes, I am.
But and I'm not sure how many of these folks are reapplies and how many.
Well, we know that Mr. Warner, Reeves, and Lucas, and Hazen are maybe Hawk.
Hill and Hawk, I think, are,
Yeah.
but I don't know who else.
I think that's it. Just looking here. So on the board right now, I have Lucas, Warner, Reeves, Hazen, Hill, Hawk, and that's it.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Hi.
Hi.
I can answer some of those questions for you. My name's Kathleen Kaufman. I'm your new Historic Preservation Officer.
Welcome. Good to have you here.
Thank you so very much. I did prepare a spreadsheet for you that kind of laid out who
Yes.
was reapplying from the board and who was not. We actually had 2 people recently actually resign from the board, and those are part of the true vacancies. And then our 6 current sitting members, they all did reapply, and that would be Hawk, Hazen, Hill, Lucas, Reeves, and Warner. And it's been a fabulous 3 months with your board so far, and we are really starting to shake things up and move things forward. And I'm happy to answer any other questions for you if you have regarding the actual applicants who applied for the board.
Okay, thank you. So I think just a Scribner's omission there and for Ms. Hawk and Mr. Hill, but they have reapplied. Okay, well then, to the board, are you ready, if you are, to ballot? I mean, I know that I am, so, yeah, if we want to do that, then we can hand them to the clerk, and then she can tally. You just want to pass them down to me, I'll give them to the clerk. Oh! Sent to the wrong clerk. Yeah, tell me.
While we wait, Mr. Mayor, can I just say, this chart was amazing, and it was really
Yes.
helpful, so thank you.
Very, very
Off to a
much,
great
thank you.
start.
You're very welcome.
We're keeping you forever.
There will be no more bumping at this table.
Wait, okay. Two pages.
I have forward, I have 2 items I need for member comment. Whoever's in charge at that point.
We'll go late, don't worry. Once he's firmly seized, we have all the power.
We will never adjourn. It'll just be a perpetual.
I want you to think about that.
Member comment without quorum too.
What's that?
We can do member comment without quorum.
Not when I attach motions to it.
Don't worry, it'll be here.
Commissioner Duncan Walker is scheduled to be here too. She's just running a little late, I think.
Depends which motions are.
So I'm not a fan of 4 quorums and detail breaks. I'm ready. Yes, please.
Okay, so we have Nathaniel Courtney with 4. Philip Tate with 3. Elizabeth Hawk with 3. Michelle Hazen with 5. Michael Hill with 5. Lucas with 5. Reed with 5. Warner with 5. Let's see how many that is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, then let's see, we got 2, 2, 2. Okay, and then, so we're gonna do a tiebreaker vote between Jennifer Dempsey, Rachel Iannelli, and Asa Kamal. They each got 2 votes. That would be our 9th person. So if someone would just,
Send them over the other, so we have Courtney.
so let me give you the ones with 5. So with 5, we had Warner, Reeves, Lucas, Hill, and Hazen.
Okay.
And then with 4, Courtney. And then 3, Haight and Hawk. So that's 8. And then we need to choose between Dempsey, Iannelli, and Kamal for the last position. Yeah.
So I'll move that we appoint the 8 that received 3 or more, and then also Azal Kamal.
Okay. Kamal. So, but we also need to, out of those 5 that received 5 votes, we need to say which 3 we'd like for the full term.
Let's do it alphabetically.
Is that okay? They're all reapplying folks, so they all have experience. Anybody have another way they want to do it?
We can do it alphabetically.
Okay, so in the motion, it will not have to figure this out. Okay, in the motion, it would be Hazen, Hill, and Lucas, Madam Clerk, for the full term. And then Reeves, Warner, and Courtney for the term ending in 2024. And then Haight, Hawk, and Kamal for the term ending in 2023. Everybody clear? Okay, any members of the public here in the room with us today that would like to speak to that motion? Hi there.
Good morning. My name is Kira Lucas. I am on your ballot. I've been on the board for a long time, and all the people who are reapplying, I think, are exceptionally amazing. I would like to say when I submitted my reapplication, I was not sure if I was graduating and getting a job and potentially moving out of town. I am now graduating, getting a job, and potentially moving out of town. I kept the reapplication in case the board needed me because we were losing people left and right. But keep in mind, if you have enough seats to fill without me, that would be great so that you guys don't have to vote on this again in January or February. So.
That's very helpful. Thank you for
Yes.
letting us know that. I think we might adjust our motion.
Absolutely, I wanted to
In
say that
reaction
before
to
you guys
that.
fully voted. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so with that, with Lucas out, then Warner, Reeves, and Hill would be the full term. I'm sorry, no. Hazen, Hill, and Reeves would be the full term, Madam Clerk. And then Warner, Courtney, and Haight would be the term ending in 24. Then Hawk, Kamal, and we need to choose between Dempsey and Iannelli.
Dempsey.
Any objection to Dempsey? Okay, so that, and Dempsey would be the, yes?
I'm so sorry. Jennifer Dempsey had actually recently withdrawn her application as not being able to
Okay,
attend.
that makes it easy, so it'd be Iannelli.
Mr. Mayor, if I may ask one quick
Yes.
question? Please come back. Sorry, I forgot your name already. Terrible.
My name, here, I'll just show you my face really quick. My name's Kathleen Kaufman.
Kaufman, okay. Thank you, Ms. Kaufman. Quick question. And it was mentioned by Ms. Lucas now, there were, and I remember getting like 3 emails that were all about resignations. Were those the Historical Preservation Board?
Yes.
Who were the names on those resignations?
So the resignation, there was one from Elizabeth Hausauer, and there was one from a lady that I never met her because she had resigned before I got here.
Was that Daniel Massey?
No, she did not.
Commissioner, I would have
The
to,
one right before.
Well, I asked because I have recollection of it. And I could have sworn that Ms. Hawk was one of those people resigning.
Ms. Hawk. Hi, Kristen Bryant, staff. So Ms. Hawk, I think initially wanted to resign. She withdrew her resignation. And so this was a long time ago. So this
I'm
was
talking about like in the last month.
Not in the last month,
Okay.
no. This was a while ago. When Ms. Kaufman first came on board, there was some discussion about Ms. Hawk resigning, but after some discussion, she decided to stay on, so.
Okay, I might be thinking about another board then. Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Kaufman.
Okay, thank you. So so again, it will be, the motion is Hazen, Hill, Reeves for the full term, Warner, Courtney, Haight for the term ending in '24, and Hawk, Ianelli, and Kamal for the term ending in '23. Can we also perhaps add on to the motion the student seat, which is between Mr. Ferdinand and Ms. Murphy?
Ms. Murphy?
Sure. So any objection? Okay, so Ms. Murphy for the student seat that ends in 2023. Okay. So there's, we're unable to show the call-in number on our screen, so I'm going to read that to you, and I'll repeat it a few times today. It's 1-800-742-1099. Again, 1-800-742-1099. And so if you'd like to comment on the appointments to the Historic Preservation Board, you're welcome to call in, and we'll give Adam a moment to screen anybody that might be calling in for that motion. Meanwhile, is there anybody in the room today that wants to speak to that motion for those appointments? Ms. Lucas, we really want to, first of all, congratulate you. That's amazing. We're excited for your next chapter and what that might hold. And thank you so much for your service on the board. It really is a lot of work, and it's very much appreciated.
Thank you, and thank you guys for taking Kathleen into the city too. She's been a godsend for the board.
Great. That's great to hear. That's great to hear.
Concur with that.
Okay, Adam, do you have anybody?
Mr. Mayor, there's nobody on the line this time.
Okay, so all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion passes unanimously.
Who seconded that motion?
I did.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, before you move on, may I
Sure.
just say one more thing? Mayor and Commissioners, thank you so much. It's going to be the first time we've had a full Historic Preservation Board in a very long time. So that's very exciting. You have also just done a wonderful job, and we are going to be a much more diverse board with some of your new applicants. So that is also fantastic. And in response to the question about affordable housing in historic districts, I do have several studies on how affordable housing can play a part in historic districts. I would love to share those with you. Obviously, it is our deep desire to help preserve the historic neighborhoods that Gainesville does have without causing anybody to feel like they have to move out of those neighborhoods because they can no longer afford it. So thank you very much. I will brag on Kyra just a little bit before she's out of here. She is graduating with a doctorate in historic preservation, and she got hired to work on the federal tax credit program at the Division of Historical Resources in Tallahassee. So thank you for your time.
All right, thank you so much. Congratulations again. Okay, maybe that would be a good topic for one of our next joint meetings, whenever that comes around, to talk about affordability and exclusionary zoning when it comes to historic districts. So we'll just kind of keep that in mind. Okay, our next business discussion item is commission staffing structure. And I believe that Ms. Watkins has a presentation to share with us. Sorry. Where did that come from? I know a Morgan Watkins, and I'm wondering where I know a Morgan Watkins, but she doesn't work for the city, I don't think so. I apologize.
No worries at all. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I am Morgan Spicer. I'm the Interim Policy Oversight Administrator, and I'll be talking today about our research on Commission office staffing structures. So before we get started, just a reminder of where we currently are in the policy process and how we got here. So the first step of our policy process is research and idea formulation, which has been completed, which is when the policy research team researches the topic and refines the questions and ideas surrounding the topic. And then we are now in phase 2, which is GPC consideration. So here are the topics we'll be reviewing today. So first, we will discuss the current staffing structure that exists for the commission. Then we will briefly review potential advantages and disadvantages of commissioners having independent staffers. And then lastly, we will review some examples of municipalities with and without independent staffers for their commissions. So currently, the City of Gainesville commissioners have no personal staff and instead share 4 executive assistants. The mayor has 1 independent executive assistant, and the commissioners each share an executive assistant among 2 commissioners. The executive assistants work in the city clerk's office and assist commissioners with scheduling and agenda setting and constituent services. Additionally, at least 1 previous mayor in the city's history did have a personal assistant, which was still hired and supervised by the city clerk. Although it is of note that this position did bring about some criticism, as the personal assistant was a former campaign official of the then mayor. A quick note for the sake of clarity before I get into this next section on legal considerations is that this research was conducted while our previous city attorney was still in her position, and so when the report and thus this presentation says the city attorney, it is referring to the previous city attorney, as these were her interpretations of our city charter. But those aspects of the city charter states that the commission must deal with all employees of the city solely through their respective charter officer, indicating, according to the former city attorney, that all employees of the city report to a charter officer, not to the city commission. According to the former city attorney, a change to the structure allowing commissioners to appoint and oversee their own staff would require the adoption of an ordinance, which would put a charter amendment to a referendum vote.
And I'm just going to make one other clarification that while it says I have an executive assistant to my own, I do not share her. I often share my executive assistant as needed because she has so much institutional knowledge and often gets assigned part-time to other departments as her services are needed. So even the wonderful Miss Betsy often plays, double duty or triple duty as folks sort of need her. And I'm not complaining about that. I just don't want people to think that she's in a completely different sort of set of circumstances than the other EAs.
So the primary advantage to allowing city commissioners to have independent staff as opposed to shared staff is to allow for a greater breadth of constituent and legislative services, and also to lessen the workload of commissioners and the existing executive assistants. When a commissioner has an independent staff person, that individual can then serve as a representative for the commissioner in meetings or conferences and then brief that commissioner, while when commissioners share staff members, that might not be possible. Additionally, when commissioners are not able to attend speaking events and instead allow for a fellow commissioner to attend those events in their place instead of a staff person, there may be a loss of information and communication for that commissioner due to Florida Sunshine Laws. Finally, independent staffers can ensure that all emails and calls are answered to the highest capacity, something that may be diminished when shared executive assistants have multiple schedules and agendas to handle. However, one of the disadvantages is that bringing on more staff can be costly to the city. The addition of 3 executive assistants would cost the salary of those executive assistants and the cost of benefits, and there also may be concern that there is not a sufficient need for this increase, due to the fact that there is existing staff to assist the commission in several aspects of their job, such as the clerk's office to assist with scheduling agendas, the clerk's policy department to assist with front-end policy research, and the city manager's office to assist with operational policy decisions. 4 executive assistants shared amongst the 6 commissioners and mayor may sufficiently meet the needs of commissioners. Finally, one of the concerns for independent staffers is the potential politicization of the aide position, as the aides would likely report directly to the elected official rather than the clerk's office. This may mean that the work done by the aide is more likely to specifically help the elected official rather than assist the city and commission as a whole. This is compared to when an aide works for more than one commissioner and thus is more likely to be working towards the goals and smooth operation of the commission as a whole. The staffing structures of city commissions around the state and country vary significantly, and there are no established best practices for commission staffing according to the National League of Cities. According to the Alliance for Innovation, cities with comparable population sizes to Gainesville primarily do have shared staff teams, either with 1 or 2 staffers for the entire commission, or for a shared staffer between 2 or more commissioners, like the city of Gainesville. Larger cities with a strong mayor form of government do tend to allow their elected officials to have independent aides. The general consensus is that cities should adopt the practice that best suits them. Cities larger than Gainesville, such as Miramar and Tallahassee, do tend to allow their commissioners to have an independent staffer, while cities smaller than Gainesville, such as Lakeland and Coral Springs, have their commissioners share staff. There are exceptions to this. For instance, Pembroke Prime, which is slightly larger than Gainesville, does have shared staff among the commission and no independent staff. Ultimately, if there are concerns among existing executive assistants and commissioners that their workload is too strenuous and that constituent services are not able to be properly responded to, then the addition of an independent staffer for each commissioner may be useful. But these cities on the screen are the ones that we will be discussing next. So starting out with cities that do have independent staffers for their commissioners, The city of Gainesville, or Jacksonville, excuse me, has a very extensive staffing structure under the office of the city council. Each of the 19 commissioners has an independent assistant who assists them with scheduling and constituent services. And there is also a secretary to the council president and an executive council assistant who serve the council as a whole. Under the council secretary, there is an information systems administrator, an administrative assistant to the council secretary, a chief of research, a chief of administrative services, a chief of legislative services, and a value adjustment board legislative assistants. Finally, there are 2 legislative assistants and 3 administrative assistants and a research assistant. So with this structure, the independent assistants to the commissioners do not handle tasks such as research or legislative assistants. The council members can choose to appoint an independent assistant to handle their scheduling and constituent services, or they can choose to receive assistance from the council secretary. However, they cannot have both. And this structure is outlined in the Jacksonville City Charter. Miami is also a city with independent staffers, so the Miami mayor has a chief of staff, a deputy director of communications, an economic development and resiliency advisor, an aide to the mayor for community programs, a receptionist, and 3 special aides. In total, the mayor has a budget of approximately $1 million to spend on personnel expenses, and then each mayor is able to choose how to staff their office within that budget. Similarly, the 5 city commissioners are able to choose how to staff their office upon election. The total personnel budget for the 5 commissioners is just over $3.5 million, and each commissioner receives a portion of this total and then is able to staff their office within that budget. Most commissioners have district liaisons, policy advisors, and office aides. For instance, the District 1 commissioner has a chief of staff, communications aide, receptionist, and 3 community liaisons, while the District 2 commissioner has a chief of staff, a district liaison, a policy advisor, a district director, a project manager, an office manager, and a staff services assistant. In Tampa, each of the 7 city council members have a legislative aide who is responsible for the administrative, office, research, and research support for the member of the council. Legislative aides' duties include information services and compilation of data surrounding city initiatives. They serve as an administrative liaison for the council member. They meet with representatives of the media, government officials, and the general public. They screen callers and visitors, and they maintain schedules of appointments, meetings, and other events for the council member. The ability of the Tampa City Council to create these independent staff positions is outlined in the charter. In Fort Lauderdale, each of the 4 city commissioners and the mayor have a personal commission assistant, and there's also 1 additional commission assistant which oversees the entire commission. This structure is allowed by the Fort Lauderdale City Charter, which states that the city commissioners have the authority to appoint and oversee their personal commission assistants. The commission assistants serve as the first point of contact for the city commissioners, and they assist the city commissioners in clerical duties such as constituent services, preparing the budget, monitoring office expenses, and additional duties in support of the commissioner. Additionally, the commission assistants assigned to specific commissioners can handle legislative research for the commissioner. Tallahassee city commissioners also each have an individual aide which assists them with administrative and research tasks. The Tallahassee mayor has a staff of 3, and the aides for the commissioners interface with constituents, write and research materials to advance the commissioner's priorities, maintain the office's online presence, and handle each commissioner's daily responsibilities. Unlike the other cities with independent commissioner staffers, Tallahassee's charter does not explicitly give the commission the authority to appoint these aides. However, Tallahassee's charter states that all powers of the city, except as otherwise provided by the charter or by the Constitution of the state, are hereby vested in the city commission. And except as otherwise provided by this charter or by the Constitution of the state, the city commission may ordinance or resolution, by ordinance or resolution, prescribe the manner in which any power of the city shall be exercised. Thus, Tallahassee City Commission has powers that are not explicitly prohibited by the charter, giving them the authority to appoint their independent aides.
Can we pause there for a sec? Because I think this is going to be a sort of important point as we move forward with this discussion. So Mr. Nee, am I understanding that Tallahassee has moved forward with this system saying, well, our charter doesn't prohibit it, therefore we are empowered to do it through ordinance or resolution, whereas ours, the interpretation, at least historically, has been because the charter does not specifically grant that power to the commission, it therefore is denied.
I don't know what they're doing in Tallahassee. I know what their charter says, and the distinction I gather from this report is that their charter expressly gives the commission powers that aren't precluded by the charter, whereas our charter doesn't operate in that manner. The commission specifically has no administrative authority at all. So whether they've interpreted it that way, it seems like that would be quite an interpretation, given the clear language in their charter stating that the commissioners have no authority to appoint anyone. Again, I don't know how they do their staff and who the staff directly report to or not, though.
Well, they report directly to the elected official, I know that. But it might be worth a conversation with their city attorney if I don't know if they know the history of that or not. It's been that way for quite some time. I mean, it's not anything new.
That is a distinction in their charter. Section 10 says all powers of the city, except as otherwise provided by the charter, are vested in the city commission. That's a provision that sounds like they're hanging their hat on in order to do this.
And that we
Interestingly
don't
enough,
know.
that would be a power vested in the commission, not in individual commissioners. So again, I'm not sure what their interpretation of that is, but in any event, it's distinctly different than what's in our charter.
Sure, okay. Thank you. Adrian?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I mean, there is a slight, couple words that theirs has. We don't have anything in our charter that expressly prohibits the commission from doing it, just it's not explicit like the Tallahassee.
Kurt?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I know that our charter says that we are not to deal with city employees directly. But guess what? Our EA system pretty much requires us to deal with employees of the clerk directly. When I direct something to be done on my calendar, I don't call OMI first. I don't call the city clerk and say, would you ask someone on your staff to do this? I call EJ Budzik and say, I need you to add this to my calendar. We are already, as have past commissions done, directing staff every single day. This is already happening. And what we're talking about here with independent staffers is not a huge different step to that. It's taking that scheduling responsibility and adding to it some other responsibilities. I understand some resistance to it, but it is functionally not a lot different from what we're doing now. It just gives us some flexibility to actually get some more work done. And we can talk more later. I don't want to.
Yeah, I didn't want to get stuck on this, but I just know that Tallahassee's the one that most of us are most familiar with. And probably, I mean, they're the closest to us sort of in size and functionality and all those things. So that's why I wanted to kind of interrupt there. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say that, the charter is very explicit in which roles and duties are given to each charter office. And the clerk's office is defined as the one that's working closely with the commission to help us run our meetings and all of that. And that's why it's appropriate for OMI to have employees which work directly with us, because that's the function of the commission. So I interpret this as just added functionality to the clerk's office on behalf of the commission. I don't see this as in any way encroaching on any other charter office. That those firewalls are still going to be there, as they should, because as are mentioned, some of the disadvantages, it is more advantageous for us to have completely independent charter offices and officers who are in charge of public employees, but then answer to the elected officials. I see the advantages and disadvantages. I don't think they are significant either way, to be honest. But the added functionality, I think, is really the point here, which is what added functionality can be given to employees of the clerk's office in terms of working with the elected officials.
Okay, thanks all. And so yeah, I'm working. Let's go ahead. Another city very similar to Florida, except they don't have as good a university, is Miramar. My good friend Mayor Besson.
Yes, so the last city that we'll discuss with independent staffers is Miramar, and in Miramar, each city commissioner is allowed to have a legislative aide, while the mayor has an executive assistant in place of the legislative aide. The legislative aides are primarily responsible for clerical duties, such as planning meetings, taking minutes and dictation, proofreading, and reviewing mail, phone calls, and filing records. The Miramar City Charter does authorize the city commission as a whole to appoint a council secretary, And within that resolution, they additionally delegate the power to the commission to allow for individual commissioners to appoint their own independent secretary or secretaries and control all aspects of their employment. And since the passage of that resolution, they have switched from the term secretary to legislative aid. So now moving on to commissions and municipalities without independent staffers, the Alachua County Commissioners do not have any independent staff to assist with administrative support, and instead their staff members are housed under the Assistant County Manager, who provide administrative support to the County Commissioners. The Executive Coordinator provides constituent services, and the Executive Staff Assistant helps with agenda preparation, scheduling, and office paperwork. The Athens-Clarke County Commissioners are part-time employees and do not have any independent employees. Instead, the Clerk of Commission has one employee, a Deputy Clerk of the Commission, and both of those employees support all 10 Commissioners. Pembroke Pines has 2 full-time and 1 part-time Executive Assistants who serve the entire 5-member Commissioner, City Manager, and Assistant City Manager, and these individuals are staffed under the Clerk's office. In Fort Collins, Colorado, there are no dedicated staffers to each council member. Instead, there is a staff member from the city manager's office, which supports the council and mayor on a part-time basis with administrative support. All of these support positions work directly for the city manager's administrative team, and the city manager delegates their roles to assist the council and mayor depending on the city manager's discretion. There are additionally 2 members of the city manager's staff who assist with policy support, but those individuals do not report to the city council. The city commissioners for Boulder, Colorado also do not have any independent staff working for them. Instead, the entire commission shares one staff member, the assistant to the city council, who serves the entire body and assists with administrative and communication tasks such as support at council meetings, special research, and policy advisor support. The 4 city commissioners and the mayor in Coral Springs, Florida, all share an administrative manager staffed by the clerk's office. And then lastly, in Lakeland, Florida, the mayor and city commissions share staff. They have a senior administrative assistant and an office associate. The elected officials and their 2 staff members also share an office space with the city manager so that the city manager's clerical staff can assist when needed. And then lastly, at the beginning of this presentation, I discussed the first 2 phases of the policy research process, and so this is just a review of where items can go after phase 2. The 3rd phase is timeline development, which is where the charter officer responsible for the item works with a working group to determine the time and resources needed for successful enactment of the item. The 4th stage is a full staff analysis of the impact of the item and the development of a proposal surrounding the item. The 5th stage is the proposal returning to JPC, and then the 6th and final stage is implementation.
Okay, good.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So I think areas that we struggle in are 2 areas: community engagement and constituent services, and communications as well. And specifically in community engagement and constituent services, I feel like those are our job as elected officials. That's, you look at the chart, we're the ones who are connected to the people, they're the ones who elect us, and then staff implements what we do. But we have, I think, because of the system, because we do more things than most any other city in Florida, even much larger cities than us. We do Orlando, we do more different types of things than Orlando. Tampa, we have a utility, we do a full service utility, does everything. We pretty much do every single service, and we're getting into health and social services and things like that other Florida cities don't do. And we push that off to staff to do constituent services and community engagement. And I don't think it's a fair system because they can't speak for us. And they shouldn't speak for us because we have to speak as a body when they're speaking for, when the staff is. So we struggle there by having staff who work directly for the commission, who we can direct to go deal with an issue, to go to a public meeting and speak with us. There are public meetings that happen, or not even just like a special public meeting, but like different neighborhood meetings, different things all happen at the same time. By having someone who can go to a meeting and speak for us, represent us, we do a better job community engagement, who can meet with people. I think the other big thing is sunshine law makes it very difficult for us to, as elected officials, to delegate areas of kind of city policy. That depends on other cities. It's like, well, you're going to deal with this, and you deal with those kind of constituent services. I'll deal with this. We can't do that. So we have to know everything going on because of that. I also think our system is designed to limit the ability of elected officials to govern and to give more, from this decision like it's made back in the 60s whenever our charter was put forward, but I think it allows us to govern, to be more accountable to our residents in our community. And this is not a budget decision or anything. This is just giving, if we do put this on the ballot, because I think this is, I spoke to Mr. Nee before. Mr. Nee, you have the same opinion as Ms. Shalley had before on this, of not being able to do this?
And that's consistently been the opinion for at least the last two city attorneys.
So I think we should put on a ballot measure that would allow the commission to be able to hire staff directly to help with constituent services, public communication, legislative issues, among other things that kind of we may direct. It's not a budgetary decision. It's giving future commissions that may want to do this in the future the ability to do it. So that would be the direction I think we should give, is to ask for what a ballot measure may look like, and hopefully putting that on the 2022 ballot. You talk to members of our community, our neighbors, they think we have staff. They think we have direct staff who work for us and can do this, and they have these expectations of us being able to do all this extra stuff. We can't, because we just don't have the ability to do it. So that's why I think we would meet the expectations of our neighbors, and we would be able to provide a better public service to our community.
All right, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I agree with everything right up to putting something on the ballot. And I'll say right up front that unless something is an emergency, I'm not going to support putting something on the ballot, because we asked the people to put a charter review commission on the ballot. It passed overwhelmingly. The people loved it. And this wasn't something that the charter review commission had any interest in. I have maintained that we're already directing EAs every day. And I don't think there's much difference in adding some functionality, as you said, to what we're asking them to do. The positions wouldn't have to be hired individually by commissioners. They could be hired, with the input of the commissioner who it's being hired for by the clerk's office. As happens with Florida legislature. Florida legislature, the assistants there don't work for the legislator. They're managed day to day by that person, but they work for the House or the Senate. They don't work for the individual person, the individual member. We could be so much more effective with someone to do backup work for us, to add functionality to the EAs. As Commissioner Santos said, people assume that we have lots of staff, that of the 2,400 people working at the city, surely somebody is supporting each commissioner. And people are shocked when I tell them, I did that at 10 o'clock because there wasn't anybody to do it during the workday. And I think we've all had that experience many times. We could serve our neighbors better with this position. I can't support putting it on the ballot, it's not an emergency, but I think it's very, very important, and I think it's possible within our current structure. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, I also think it's unnecessary to put this on the ballot. I can respect that that's the interpretation of our city attorney, but I would be interested in putting forward a proposal where we ask for, similar to the structure that exists, because it's true, in the House and the Senate, you have representatives and senators with whole offices of staff that are not actually hired by them. It's hired by the office of the Senate, which of course is ran by the majority leader, but different chambers, different rules. So I'd like to see a proposal, because the truth is, right now, we can't add more functionality to the existing staff because there's already so much work getting done. Like there's just so much work being done that to just say, okay, well, let's change their job descriptions and ask them to do more. I think that's not the route that we want to go. But if we could ask for our charter officers to come back with a proposal for how we could set up a hiring process that goes through the normal city hiring processes, but includes the input of the commissioners. That way, it's in line with an existing format, but we're also adding the input of the elected officials for those positions. because I don't believe this has to go to the ballot. I don't think, I've spent a lot of time reading our charter over the last year, and I don't believe that there's I don't believe it's a necessity to do that.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm going to disagree. While I understand Commissioner Sancho's points, and I agree with it, that, you know, I can't ask you to go somewhere and then tell me what you thought of it, because we just aren't allowed to do that, and having personal staff dedicated to each one of us would be very helpful. I personally can't get past the expense of it, because we pay a living wage at the bare minimum, plus benefits. It would be expensive. I also don't know where we put them, given what upstairs looks like. But, and I personally think that there's two ways to do it. Like, I would prefer to do the ballot version, because it seems cleaner cut from a legal standpoint, where we can't get sued. But I agree with Commissioner Ward that, you know, if it's something hired through the clerk's office with some input of like, these are the skill sets or the preferences I have, fine. But I still would feel legally safer with the ballot option. And even just putting something on the ballot costs money. Like, that takes time and money. Plus then the expense of having an assistant for each of us, because we're 7. No, but there's 5 in this room right now, but there's 7 of us. That would be, I think, given the next several years of our budget, kind of, like, I wouldn't be comfortable with it. I want the thing, but I also, I can't see myself supporting it unless we figure out how to pay for it. No matter how much I would like to have this, this addition to staff, because I'm right there. I get invited to 3 things at the same time. I physically cannot get between one and the other. But yeah, from a legal point, I'd prefer to have it on the ballot. That already costs money, and then actually paying people to do this job, because I do this job and they should get paid. If they're going to go represent us, they should get paid well. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'd like to hear from the clerk and the city attorney about this perspective that, you know, I call Betsy and say, hey, can you proofread this letter for me and get it on letterhead, or can you please schedule me a meeting with this individual, or can you forward this to Public Works and see if they can help this guy out who's got a drainage problem in his backyard? And how that's different than having, let's call it a legislative aide, who I say, hey, can you attend this neighborhood meeting for me and share what we're working on, and then bring back any concerns or ideas that they might have. I mean, to me, they seem similar, although I do see a difference. But in either case, am I directing those requests directly through the charter officer? I mean, I don't know if that's through tradition or because we are legally empowered to do so for some reason that we just have never like clearly discussed and articulated. But it's not something we really do through orientation. I will tell you that when I first got elected, I was at my very first swearing in, and it was after we were still in Thelma Bolton eating little pinwheel roll-ups and drinking Publix iced tea. And Commissioner Henry was standing next to me talking to somebody, and their conversation ended, and then Devanya, who some of you remember, outstanding executive assistant, he turned to Devanya and handed the card to her and said, hey, can you schedule me a meeting with this fella, you know, in sometime in the next week or two? And my mind was blown, because I didn't know that we had any of that. I thought that I was going to do it all on my own. I was like, wow, we have somebody that we could just turn to and say, can you schedule me a meeting? And they take care of it, and all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, there's a meeting. I was like, oh, that's how you do this job. And then it even took me, because I never had any assistant in my whole life before that. You know, I was a teacher. I did all my own work. So I had to learn that I had somebody that I could work with just to help me do my basic job, like scheduling meetings and getting background information for me, and just things like that. So can you all talk about like where that line is drawn, and why what we currently have in place is fine, but if we were to have a person that were to do a little bit more, like go out into the public realm and interact on our behalf, that would be not okay. I don't know who wants to. Maybe more of a Dan question, but Omi, I know that you've been around and thought about this a lot too, so I think your input is valuable and important to hear.
I think what you have, Mr. Mayor, is you have clerical support. And this discussion starts with the sort of the proposition of what is the role of an individual commissioner. The individual commissioner has no individual administrative or operational role with the city of Gainesville. You function as a board, as a body. Individually, there is no decision that you make that binds the city of Gainesville. The mayor's position may have some ceremonial functions and some functions related to running the meeting of the board, but as to what your role is individually, it is not one to be making representations that are binding upon the city. To the extent that, as a commissioner, 1/7 of the body making the overarching policy decisions of the city, that you need additional legislative help, that's what you have your charters for, to provide you with that assistance. If you feel that you're not receiving satisfactory responses to inquiries about policy initiatives or operational matters of the city, or responding to the needs of our neighbors, as we call them now, then I think that's an issue you legitimately have to take up with your charter officers, who are charged with acting operationally on behalf of the city of Gainesville. It's a difficult line to tread. I understand that. And I know that some of the things I hear you discussing just in rough form now about having emissaries to send out to meetings to gather information or to disseminate information on your behalf. Well, individual commissioners aren't spokespersons for the city. And that sounds harsh, but that's the fact of the matter. You speak for yourself. You're a politician, you're an elected official who is 1/7 of that board. And as to what your individual aspirations are of how you can help people, those are very valid, very valuable, but they are not to be promoted by individual employees of the city of Gainesville. So, and your charter, I think, is more clear than you may want to think. It says, except for the purposes of an inquiry, the commission and its members, including the mayor, must deal with employees of the city, not employees of a particular charter office, but employees of the city, solely through their respective charter officers, and either the commissioner or any commissioner, including the mayor, may give orders to any subordinates of the charter offices, either publicly or privately. And while you have assistants that are assigned to you for that clerical support, and you ask them to do things, or you even direct them to do things, you're not exercising that control over their actions. They're being assigned to you to assist you in performing your duties as a commissioner or as the mayor. But ultimately, all the administrative things, and I assure you there's a great deal of administrative work that takes place behind the scenes, as you can tell if you ask any manager about their transition to the new workday system. But in terms of those administrative assistants, annual evaluations, their mid-year evaluations, their compensation concerns that they have, all facets of their career, their leave requirements, there's a number of things we can go through. Those are all being handled by their charter officer who's sitting across the table from me right now. The hard work of managing them and ensuring that they're able to grow productively throughout their career with respect is what she takes care of. And so while it is nice of them to help facilitate you, that's part of their job, you're not directing them, you're not their boss, you're not their supervisor, however you want to term it. They're assigned to you to help you accomplish the clerical needs of your job. I'm not sure what happens in Tallahassee. I do see that their charter does have that distinction that Ms. Spicer pointed out in the report about all powers not otherwise given are reserved to the commission, and that isn't something we have here. And maybe they've interpreted that some way to allow their commission to have some operational authority, administrative authority, that we don't have here. Even if it does, I don't know that it gives individual commissioners any sort of operational or administrative authority, but then that's Tallahassee's issue, not ours. I mean, in fact, explicitly in our charter under mayor, it says the mayor shall have no administrative duties. And I don't know what members of the public may think when they interact with you, if they think you have big staffs, but that's a constituent, I think, that you know, that's an opportunity to educate someone that, no, you're here as the board of directors. You're here to govern the direction, the policies. It's a lot of work as it is. It's not to run the nuts and bolts operational matters. That's why you hire professionals who are trained to do so.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, Mr. Need, but I don't think that's what you're hearing from anybody. I think what you're hearing is how do we more effectively conduct constituent service and community engagement, which are responsibilities of ours and are part of, those are non-administrative functions. We're not administering anything. We're going out and sharing information and soliciting feedback. And I don't know how, I still have not heard how that's different than the clerk telling REAs that if your commissioner requests an appointment with somebody, community engagement and constituent service, that you are empowered to schedule that appointment when and where and under what conditions both parties deem to be acceptable. You know, it could be at a coffee shop, it could be in the office. I'm having trouble understanding the difference between those two things.
Maybe it's a difference of degree, but again, and maybe it's a semantic difference that we have in terms of what our constituent services. If a neighbor comes to you with a problem with their wastewater service, I think that's when you call your general manager of utilities and have them send someone out who's an expert in that area to deal with it. If they're having a problem with a noise violation or noise issues with their neighbors, that's when your city manager can have code enforcement go out and address them. There are subject matter experts in all these concerns that deal with the citizens and the neighbors that we have here, and they're entitled to that sort of professional response as opposed to a person who is a representative of an individual commissioner. And again, if you're not receiving that level of service, I think you have a legitimate concern, because I think you're entitled to that.
Yeah, so when somebody comes and says, I've got a problem with drainage in my yard, I contact both the general manager of the utility and the city manager, and usually copy who I think is probably the staff person most directly responsible for that, and say, can somebody follow up with this individual, please? And then they do, every time. It's great. I don't know why, and actually, we've gotten to the point where our EAs do that. If an email comes in or a call comes in and they realize I can redirect this before the commissioner even sees it or gives me direction, because I know where this is supposed to go, they do. And I don't know the difference between that and them going to a neighborhood meeting and hearing the same thing and being able to do the same thing. Like, it's still not an administrative function, it's just helping facilitate better community involvement and communication.
And I think you hit the nail on the head, Mr. Mayor, is that when it works best is when the executive assistant, who they generally have a tremendous amount of institutional knowledge, when they hear that constituent's concern, they can contact the elected official, or they can really serve that constituent by saying, I'm going to put you in touch with water, wastewater, for example, or stormwater, and they're going to handle your concern effectively. If the commission as a whole feels that the city government can be more responsive to our neighbors' concerns by having the general manager of the utility or the city manager be staffed up enough to have a representative go to neighborhood meetings, then that's something the city commission as a whole can direct you're a charter officer to do. I think you should try to have someone attend, 1 out of 3 neighborhood association meetings, and schedule something like that so that there is a person there from the applicable professional operational area that can really address these constituent needs.
Okay, thank you, and Harvey, I haven't forgot about you. Ms. Gainey, do you have some thoughts on this? I know you do. How many of you want to share this right now is up to you.
This is a very loaded area. As y'all know, I've been here when I was an EA, when there was just 2 of us, right? And we managed a 7-member commission. Our office has grown substantially since then. I will say there's a lot of moving parts, and although the answer on the surface seems like just very simple, just get them to do these other things, and that's that. There are a lot of other considerations, as Mr. Meade pointed out, that we have to take into consideration administratively. We do have 4 total assistants that help with commission as well as other clerk's office duties, but there's a couple things that we have to kind of weigh in the balance. They are represented employees, for one. They're CWA represented employees, and so there are union constrictions. I have had HR take a look at this at least 2 times since I've been here about their classification. If there is a level of work or confidentiality to their jobs that would substantiate a change in classification. And that answer from our professionals over in the HR office has been consistently, no, there is not. So those 3 things right there limit us greatly with our flexibility for what we are able to assign them. Another thing is job classification, and our descriptions is what governs essentially the work that our EAs do, and those job descriptions can be updated. However, that comes at another a cost, a trigger. If we update those descriptions too much, we may substantially change the job in its entirety, and then we cannot hire for those new jobs unless we get rid of everyone that's currently there, or allow them somehow to compete for a new position. So that's another issue to also be looked at. I do think the charter does state that commissioners are not, or the elected body is not to interfere with charter officers in the hiring and firing of staff, in the public, retrieval, I guess if you will, of those staff, either publicly or privately actually. And so there would be some interference there if the commission was allowed to weigh in on the hiring decisions that I make. Additionally, I keep hearing the word additional functionality, and I'm curious to know what services that you all are seeking that, other than the community, liaisons, essentially, people to be able to go out and take notes and report back to you all on issues, what services are not being delivered to you all. I know we have had this conversation about constituent services a time or two, and really improving our customer service base of general government. I think that's just not something that exists within just the clerk's office. I think we receive the brunt of the customer service function because you all are forward facing to the community, and people feel like you are their last resort, or sometimes first resort when they have an issue. They may not know where to go, where to be directed. I think that is substantially a separate issue to some extent. However, there are things that we have built in place to help us with tracking issues, for example. I know that's one of the things that's come up. And with a lot of the improvements that SI has been working on with my GNV, I think we're moving in that direction. Unfortunately, it just doesn't happen at the same pace I'm sure that you all would desire. So I would love to hear more about additional functionality, and especially with the addition of our policy team. If the commission has the will to add additional positions, if you feel better suited by additional people, just know that that's going to come at a budgetary cost and expense, and also we are in a very limited space as well. So that's also something to keep in mind with the addition of additional people. It's not just as putting bodies in chairs as much as it is other things like network infrastructure and, like I said, the budget and benefits for those positions. We did grow as a staff. We went from 2 people to 4 now, so we have doubled in size on that side of the house. And like I said, I think that's all I'll say for now. As far as community engagement, that's a very interesting topic. I agree. And I feel the heartburn, let me say that too, because I've sat and talked with many of you one-on-one about some of the heartburn that you all have as commissioners and having some services further removed from you all and at your disposal. But at the same time, to Mr. Lee's point, I do think that, there's a reason why, the professional staff are situated the way that they are for all of these nuanced reasons, some of which that I've mentioned here. I think it does warrant maybe additional discussion about maybe more support around communications and community engagement and really defining what that means for you all. Because right now, I think communications is a department of the city manager. So again, that just goes to having someone maybe closer to you all and maybe support some of your individual needs a little bit more closely. Maybe that's an option. I'm always open to hear more, but I definitely want to hear more from you all about additional functionality and what it is that you all mean by that.
Okay, thank you both. Very, very helpful. Really appreciate your insight on that. Harvey, we'll go back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So first, let me say, I have a lot to say, but I'll start by saying this isn't about any of us as individuals. This is about how the city of Gainesville serves our neighbors who live here in our city and serves the people who need to interact with the city of Gainesville. Nobody of our 141,000 neighbors, barely anybody knows who the city commissioners are. But they darn sure don't know who the right person to contact at Public Works to take care of their flooding issue is. Some of them know that they voted, if they live in Northwood, let's say, for Harvey Ward, to deal with that stuff for them. To be the person that they know as a contact at the city of Gainesville. And they know I'm not going to go out with a shovel, although they might like that. The son would love that. But they know, they have faith, hopefully, that I know the right person to contact at the city of Gainesville, through the city manager's office, through an assistant city manager, to the director of public works, to whatever department it is, to get their flooding dealt with. As an example, there are 2,400 people who work for the city of Gainesville. The people who live here don't know who the right person to contact is, but they know who they saw on the ballot. Maybe. Maybe. As far as the concept of interference, there's a difference between interference and advisement. Huge difference. I see where we're going here. We're not going to maybe run this toward this very clearly. I feel appropriately chastened in the idea that, we just don't understand. I get it. But that is how I feel. It may not have been your intent, but it is absolutely how I feel. There's no question in my mind that I could serve our neighbors better with more specific help. There is no question in my mind that the person who sits in my chair when I'm not in that chair anymore can serve our neighbors better with some extra help. What I think we kind of need is something between an EA and a research person. That's the sort of thing that would be useful and helpful. I don't think any of us expect to direct staff to go out and get stuff done. What we expect is to be able to serve neighbors better and to engage better and more effectively. Because if we can't go to two competing neighborhood meetings, somebody's problems are not being heard. And the idea that we're going to, talk to the Office of Engagement and the Office of Communications and 5 other offices to send them out to a neighborhood meeting, that's not what the people want. The people want that person that they voted for to go deliver some results. And we can do that if we can be there and hear them. Or if someone who works with us regularly and on a daily basis and understands what the job needs, can go out and be a support person for that, as opposed to someone who's working really hard behind a desk at City Hall sharing that service. That's a different thing that we have now with EAs than it is somebody who can really understand what we're trying to achieve. And then that goes into what we're trying to do legislatively as well. You know, it's the addition of the Office of Research has been wonderful. Wonderful, very helpful. Could be a lot more helpful if we weren't sharing and if we weren't trying to be careful about what we say in those meetings so that we're not breaking sunshine. Because with one office representing all of what we're trying to accomplish, they've got to be careful about what they say back and forth to us. I don't expect we're going to go anywhere with this. But I don't feel like, this is one of those places where I feel like there are, I'm not accusing anyone directly, but I feel like there are staffers who just wish that the commission would have their meetings and go home. That's not what the people want, for the most part. I'm sure there are people who want that, but I don't think that's what most people who live in this community want. We're just looking to be more effective and more responsive to the people that we work for. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I want to address the Charter Review Commission. I've spoken with quite a few members of the Charter Review Commission, and they thought in their actions at those meetings that the commission had that ability to do it. They didn't think that they had to do that. That was kind of what their understanding was in those meetings. And the charter does give multiple ways for us to deal with issues. One of them is for the commission, six commissioners to place something on the ballot. Another is the charter review. And there's different things that come across. I mean, we deal with this issue much more so than the public because they don't really see the inner workings at times. As for the expense, I mean, I would say we would put it on a ballot that already is the November ballot or the August ballot. It's already going to be out there. The cost shouldn't be a small question. It's not going to be a big cost. And as far as like hiring, I won't be on the commission whenever this is done. The majority of us won't be on there. What my request is, let future commissions, as our city grows and this becomes a larger and larger and larger and larger issue, let them decide what support they may need. And I think right now we have a one-size-fits-all approach. I can tell you that every single one of us is different in how we approach the jobs, it's different on how we constituent services, and I think one of the biggest issues is, yes, if we have city staff go out there to the meeting and deal with constituent services, but there's also there's some constituent services that I don't agree with and I may not want to deal with, and I want to do it from a policy range, and that's where I think having someone who can help you with that, help you navigate those areas, being able to be a legislative aid, which helps in constituent services, helps in communication, to be able to get the information out there. We constantly hear from our public that they don't hear from us enough. And if we're waiting for four of us to agree on everything, then that's what the city says, but when I go out to a meeting, we're not speaking for the city. I'm speaking for myself as a commissioner. And I think people understand that. They understand when the congressperson goes and talks to them that it's that congressperson, it's not the federal government talking to them. I think if the president goes, that's a different thing, but in the legislature, people understand that. We're not going to solve this issue by trying to change what we currently have, because I don't think we have, I think our charter is clear that employees that work for the city, we can't interfere with. I work for charter officers. I may have slight disagreements on if we could do that outside of that, but I think with I see your point, it's a fair thing. So I think the only way we solve this is by putting it to the voters and seeing what they think. I don't think there's much hurt to it, and it helps our future commissions, and it helps us be a better city. We always talk about how can we be a better city? How can we talk about community engagement? How can we do better communications? This is one of the clearest ways where we could, when someone contacts us, we'll know we'll be able to do a better job of making them happy. And that's where I think we should be making changes. Where the biggest areas we get complaints on. I mean, with all these developments and stuff like that, we could have somebody go to every single neighborhood meeting while these big things are happening, so they can hear those concerns and they can bring them back. Right now, we can't do that when there's multiple things going across our city. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks. Yeah, just one sec, Mr. Nee. This is going to be, okay, sure. This is going to be a recurring conversation, I assure you. Whether we solve all of this today or not. Probably more inclined to agree with you than we're not. But it needs to be an ongoing conversation, and it has been an ongoing conversation. But it reminds me, sort of to paraphrase a very old military adage, we go to govern with the charter that we have. I guarantee you, if any of us were writing a charter from scratch to govern this city, it wouldn't be this charter. It would not be this charter. You know this. Yeah. And because we've learned over time, especially as we've grown and become more complex, there are so many limiting factors in the way this charter is designed. And some would say, you know, it's because we have too many commissioners, and some would say it's because we have a directly elected mayor, and some would say because we don't have a strong mayor. I mean, there's a lot of like what ifs. How can we govern better? So I will tell you, I'm sort of in between. We need to amend our charter to fully address this challenge or opportunity for improvement. And we have what we need now if we can think about how to do it and then fund it. I mean, it's not, I mean, fund it. It's what we can do if we fund things, right? So I'm kind of six half dozen, but I will tell you that we are going to continue to have questions between now and next November about charter amendments, because we have learned in no uncertain terms that our charter has a massive deficiency when it comes to special elections. We have got, I mean, if none of us think that we don't need to do anything differently, I firmly believe we need to get something on the ballot for that election to not end up in the same situation we are right now, right? And I don't think anybody in the public disagrees with that. Like that you have to have an election within 60 days and it's going to cost over $400,000 when there's like obviously a much more easy and efficient way to deal with that. I had lunch with actually, well, he's a friend now. I met him for the first time the other day, but he was a commissioner down in Ocala who resigned. But before he resigned, he spoke with everybody and said, if I do this and when I do this, what's going to happen? And it was a very sort of simple, straightforward way, and it cost nothing, and they were able to get somebody else in there in short order. And, you know, so we need to do that anyway. And so if we're going to have a charter amendment, and I'm not saying we haven't agreed on this, or, you know, really this is the first time we're bringing it up publicly, I guess, but I think it's appropriate to talk about other significant changes we might want to think about making if there's already going to be a public discussion about amending our charter. You know, the only reason to like not do it is just say we're going to wait another, whatever, 8 years till the next Charter Review Commission. And I don't think we can wait another 8 years because of the situation we currently find ourselves in. So I want to continue to having this and really thinking about what the correct path forward is. And I hope that y'all are hearing from us that this is not a power grab from the elected officials to have more direct control over staff. It's really about how can we be in closer contact with our neighbors so we have a more consistent and more true understanding of what people are talking about and what they think, so we can respond to that and be more reactive. And you know, let's continue to explore how that can happen. I don't think any of us think it can happen just by tweaking a few things with the current system we have, like with the EAs doing something slightly different, or you know, Morgan or folks in Shelby's office doing something a little bit different. I don't think that that's, I think we understand that that's not the capacity that we have. So what else can we think about doing, and does that require a charter amendment or not? So let me get the two commissioners first, Mr. Nee, with David and Rena, and then I'll come back to you.
Thank you. Thank you for everything you outlined. It was really good food for thought. So I'm gonna just try and keep it as brief as I can. I think if we were going to move forward, we would obviously need to get some pretty solid in writing responses from both CWA and HR to figure out how we would classify these jobs in the first place. If they're working for the clerk, but also reporting to elected officials, I think that would be very important. As far as the interference, it was my intent that you would make the decision for hiring and firing. It would be inappropriate for commissioners to try and override you on that. I think that would be outside the bounds of the charter. So that was my view. And in terms of the functionality, I'm really talking about representation for the individual offices. I understand that we act as a board when we're making policy, but especially the last 2 years have reminded me, we do represent the city individually. Maybe not in terms of we represent every policy, but each one of us carries with us that representation when we're going to meet with neighbors, when we're going to neighborhood meetings. All of that is a representation of the city. And so what I am thinking of is having a representative from my office that represents the District 3 seat or the at-large seat or the mayor's seat, because I want to be very clear. My position does not come from a place of dissatisfaction with any of the staff that we currently have. We have expanded the clerk's office, and we have seen work from the policy team become policy in the city of Gainesville. And that's because it was a gap that needed to be filled. So that worked out really well, I thought. I have also been able to put neighbors in contact with charter offices, and they've gotten their problem solved. So that those pipelines will always be there. Those pipelines will always work. What we're talking about is having a representative for the individual seats. They will not act outside of the decisions of the body. That has to be very clear. The body is still the decision makers. And as is in our charter, commissioners have the ability to govern each other. And that would be the same for staff members that represent our office. So there are obviously some questions about space and budget, which, we obviously can't take a step forward today unless those get addressed, unless we see on paper what exactly is the cost, all of that. So that's okay. But I want to point out that the charter was written to create a part-time commission. A part-time commission, when I was born, Gainesville was 92,000 people. It's 141,000 now, and you can bet it's only going to grow. So the charter was written at a time when maybe they couldn't imagine Gainesville growing this much, maybe they couldn't imagine the city government growing this much, maybe they could. I don't know. But we have to have that imagination. And I think that on a board with mostly two-term figures, I think our institutional knowledge is a benefit. So this conversation will keep coming up. I am still unconvinced that we need to go the route of the charter amendment, but certainly that's just one opinion, and I would be okay with whatever mutual decision the commission comes to. But I just wanted to say very clearly, this is not coming from a place of dissatisfaction. The work that we have done in my 2 terms here has been tremendous. I have always found staff to be reliable. I've always found staff to be responsive. We may have differing opinions on policy, but that's the whole point of the democratic institution that we serve. So I'm just asking, let's have additional representation for the commissioners so that we can serve our neighbors better. And that's the ask. Thank you.
Thank you. Brent?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Madam Clerk, quick question. Since you seem to know. For a charter amendment ballpark figure to, I'm not talking like GRU referendum,
Yeah.
but run-of-the-mill average feeling.
Because we're going to be on the ballot with the county for this upcoming election, it shouldn't be a whole bunch in terms of actually adding an amendment unless by some weird circumstance our amendment causes a page to run over. We would have to absorb those costs. However, I think the biggest part of any amendment is education and educating the community. I know we cannot get on one side of that, yay or nay, but we can educate the community. That's probably going to be your largest expense. And then, of course, if that particular amendment does pass, to make that amendment, then all of the expenses with hiring new staff, I really would have to consult a lot with HR for our existing staff members if it creates, if the goal is to alter the current positions or if it's to create something in addition to. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So,
I can't give you a number off the top of my head.
but that helped. So I'm going to disagree with Commissioner Ariella for a moment. I think that the first step is figuring out if we're going to do this at all, because I'm still going the ballot route, just to have it clean and neat, because I don't want there to be question about our power and ability to do this. So I think that's step one. Do we as a board want to go that route of, yeah, I would like this change to be possible? And then the hiring is a completely separate matter altogether. How do we do that? That whole creature, like how do we do that? That's a completely separate matter. And I'll agree with y'all, but this is not about us, not even about me. It's about whoever comes after us. And do they want to? That commission should have the option. Fine. And that's their budget question. Do you want to keep doing this? I'm going to disagree again. I don't think, if we do it as a ballot measure, that they are independent to us or to any singular commissioner, I think that is better. Because if hiring and firing rests on the clerk, and an assistant assigned to any one of us is going against our own policies or our office's policy, that's a problem. So hiring and firing power should, at least firing, should definitely rest in the commissioner, or at least that advisement of like, hey, this is not working out. Which is why I'm leaning the ballot route. If any clash of policy or politics occurs, that the individual office needs to be able to say, hi, Madam Clerk, this person is not working in my office. Like that is just, I'm trying to think of like an example. Like, I live in District 2. There's a lot of flooding here and wetlands, but he's saying, yeah, we should definitely bulldoze all of this and build on it. That runs counter to what I personally think. And I couldn't have a staff person, a legislative assistant going out and saying contrary to what I think or what I vote on. So I definitely think if we do anything at all, it has to go that ballot measure to reassign and make it something very distinct and separate from what the current DA functions are. And it has to be like its own creature. What was the other thing? Yeah, so if the conversation was not in today, we are all in agreement. I could be moved to do just the ballot initiative, since it would be cheaper to do it this year than in any of the others, or wait, fine. And then individual commissions, when building budgets, would not be you guys, would not be us, it would be next one. Whatever that commission looks like in 22, would be deciding, do we want to move forward and create these positions? Well, budget 23, year 22. Wait, no, you're right, never mind, 23. I'm just kicking you all out.
Wow.
I'm kicking you guys out. I think that's step one though, like, do people want to support this as a ballot measure? So we have that authority to do it, and then we can figure out the budgeting. But before budgeting, before talking to people, like, do we even have the authority to do it? And I think a ballot measure cleanly cements, yes, here you go, you do. And if that fails, then you can look for other ways if you still want to do it. But I think what we should explore further, if we explore anything further with Ms. Spicer, is, take to step 3, the ballot part, and what that would look like. And I'm guessing a lot of that rests in the clerk's office. So That's my, more than 10, that's my 70 cents.
All right, thank you. Adrian, then Harvey, then back to Dan.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to concur with Commissioner Areola. I'm not dissatisfied with our current staff. It's not that they're not doing what they're being asked to do. It's that our charter stops us from doing what I would like them to. So it's not, everything's working fine. It's just that I think we can do more, but we're limited by the law of the land. That's why I think we should change the law of the land. And two, I think Commissioner Sacco's kind of concern on cost. I mean, I think Ms. Gainey said, I mean, I don't, we haven't voted on it yet, but I think we did actually give direction on bringing back a charter change, actually, I think. Yeah. So we did take a vote to bring back a charter change for the special election. So we'll already be doing education, we'll already be doing all of this, so adding one more little thing to that is it's a relatively small change in terms of education. We're already going to be doing it already. So I do think that we should, I'd like to see what some ballot language would look like, and then we can see in that, and with that ballot language would then allow us to kind of see what parameters we want to put on it. But I think coming back with that, it takes 6 of us to put it on there, that's correct? Yes, so it takes 6 of us, 6.
4 to 5.
6.
Comes to 6, yes.
Yeah. So I think that.
Forfeit. So.
Yeah, I want to change that too. So I do think coming back, and I guess I'll put a motion on the floor that we ask the city attorney's office and city clerk's office to come back with what some charter language would look like for independent staffers, for commissioners, to come back at one of the February GBC meetings.
Second.
Okay, motion second to ask for some follow-up information from the attorney and clerk. Commissioner Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I want to follow up on what Commissioner Areola said. I don't want any of y'all to walk out of here today thinking that I'm not happy with the response that I get from you individually. I'm thrilled with how hard everybody who I work with in the city works and the effort that you all are giving. I think part of the issue is you are all, whether you intend to be or not, you are by design working in a silo. The 7 of us are tasked with working around and in between and under and over every one of those silos. And while you may be doing exactly what you're supposed to do in response to what I'm asking, it doesn't mean that we don't need a little something different than what your charter position is able to offer through your office under the current systems. So this is not criticism of what you're doing. It's saying there's more service that we could provide to the people who live in our city and depend on us with a little bit more, and our perspective on it is different than the perspective that you all bring to it. That's what I'm saying. Not that you're not responding very well, you absolutely are, but there's more service that we could provide with just a little bit more personnel. That's all.
All right, thanks. Dan, thanks for your patience. Sincerely, thanks.
Mr. Areola, it's just 2 quick points, and first, I hope I don't have to say it, but I want to absolutely assure you that it was never and would not be my intention to chasten anyone, and I understand that often tone comes before content, and I'm yelling through the mask, so I hope my volume didn't give the impression that I was chastening or trying to educate or anyone in that regard. That's not my point at all. And secondarily, it's that also I think you don't, but I hope you don't misunderstand anything that I said to give an opinion as to how things should be. That's not my role at all either. And I don't think any of you need that. And to the extent anyone wanted my opinion, they could ask me. But again, that's not what my intent was either. Could there be different charter configurations? Absolutely. We've seen that. There are. And so I'm not telling you how things should be, but rather how the consistent opinion over some time from our office has been, and I think it holds up today as to how things currently are under this charter. And to the extent that there was mention of the Charter Review Committee, considering issues like this. I can tell you, I attended all those meetings representing the Charter Review Committee. I don't remember this issue specifically being addressed by the committee, but there were several similar issues dealing with the role and power and authority of commissioners and the commission, dealing with pay, dealing with terms, dealing with all sorts of things around that, recognizing that maybe the city has changed in terms of size, in terms of times, and the roles might have changed. And while I'm not sure I don't think any of those things came out of the Charter Review Committee, I don't know if that was a substantive decision. Looking back, you may recall, there were several things I thought would come out of the Charter Review Committee, several proposals I thought would come out of the Charter Review Committee. They were coming up on making their final decisions just as the pandemic hit. And things were truncated. I think there was a feeling, and again, it was a big group. It was my perception, there was a feeling amongst that group, we were coming up to an abyss, and let's not make any drastic proposals. And things got much more conservative, small c, I guess, at the end of their process. I don't know that you can draw any judgments based upon their considerations of items like this. So again, I'm not saying, I'm not telling anyone how things should be, but trying to explain our interpretation of how things are given our current charter.
Okay, thanks, Ms. Gaines.
Yep, that concurs with a lot of what I was going to say as well. We are all stuck in restraints and constraints, not restraints, that sounded kind of scary.
I don't think that's too far off.
Right, we all have silos that I think we're trying to deal with collectively as charters and things that we see within our systems that bind us to a certain way of doing things. There's always improvement that's warranted and needed, and I fully support that. We are working continuously to get systems in place that help try to eliminate some of those walls, right, and those barriers. Because to be honest, a lot of our challenge is infrastructure, right? If it's not physical infrastructure, it might be technological infrastructure, or just structure that's put in place by our charter that we just can't exactly get around. And I'll also say that, that's one of the things that I've focused on since I've been here, is trying to build in those infrastructures that help support better flow of information, better flow of the work that we do, such as our public record system. We've been working with, like I said, SI on my GNV to help manage constituent services better. Even down to our agenda management system, being able to make that a more robust system that the whole city is using, because like you all, you have to deal with everybody, so do we. As a clerk's office, it might be a smaller charter, as they say, we're part of the small charter coalition, but we tend to work with everybody in the whole city. And those are some of the challenges that we have with trying to help develop the right systems and the right processes that can support everyone, both from the commission side, and God knows we know what it's like to work with you all every day and a lot of your pain points. So please don't think that I am in any way, shape, or form ignorant of those pain points. I get them and I feel them and I understand them. But I also think that we're also, trying to do a lot of things on the back end to try to make those pain points lessened. But like I said, because I don't have all of these resources at my disposal, I can only work within the confines of what I do have, and what the commission is willing to get, to provide support for. And so, like I said, and I'll continue to say, I'm always still willing to have those conversations to think through more creative ways that we can help better support you all in the meantime. And that door will always remain open. So I do plan to have some follow-ups, because I did hear some conversation today that I think I want to double back on. And that's that.
Okay, thank you. David, then Harsh, then we'll go to public comment.
I don't exactly fully remember what I was going to say, so why don't we just...
All right, Harsh.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just very briefly, an interesting thing we might want to think about is, because there's a whole lot that didn't get through the Charter Review Commission, maybe an ad hoc midterm Charter Review Commission would be an interesting thing to set up. Not necessarily right now, but a bucket to finish the work and have the broader conversations that they couldn't because of the pandemic. Just a concept. Something for us to think about for another day.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so a motion on the floor just for some sort of exploratory language to come back from the attorney's office in consultation with the city clerk. And so again, we're not making any final decisions, but it's really just to further the conversation, to see if we want to move forward. So we'll start with anybody here in the room with us today want to speak to this particular motion or item. Mr. Shepherd? And while he's coming up, one sec, Mr. Shepherd, I'm just going to read this number so folks are ready, but your time has not started. If you want to call in, the public comment line is 1-800-742-1099. Again, 1-800-742-1099. Okay, Mr. Shepherd, go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Yes, I think there needs to be more than 3 minutes for this. I also think that the Charter Review Board hasn't gotten in touch with me since the 12 years I've been trying to run for commissioner or mayor. The city clerk hasn't gotten in touch with me within that time. These letters of intent never received from any commissioner, any mayor that I've followed within the 12 to 13 years that I've ran. Neighborhood meetings, I've been to all these neighborhood meetings from time to time. Sunshine laws is something that's been broken, like eating candy. The HR department directions need to be reviewed and rewritten. Hiring policy, as far as what y'all have been mentioning about help for commissioners and mayors, I vote on that. I think that we desperately need this. Budget formalities, I think they need to be reviewed. New mayor help and training, that's never been my history of following this that I've been offered. I've been doing this for years. I've been trying to walk in your shoes, Mr. Mayor, and I can't do it because I'm poor. 1, 2, I'm not getting no help. 3, these signature things that you have here for to take and collect ballots, you might as well take and blow your nose on them, because people, when you go knock on their door, they take and tell you that they don't want to take and sign them. They take and tell you to get off their property, and so therefore they're insignificant towards the election of a mayor. I'm not a harsh person. I'm a very workable person. My waiver report shows 0 because I have no money to pay through that. I have barely enough money to live as a citizen. And my drive is 1,000%. Anybody that knows me knows my drive for trying to be a mayor or commissioner has been 1,000%, and all the time I've ran. I think that, I don't know where my time is, sir.
You have about 8 seconds left.
I'm not going to give up. Because we're not getting any help for new commissioners or mayors, and that's what we start at.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Shepherd. Appreciate that. Stay tuned for the rest of this discussion. All right. Do we have anybody, Adam, that's calling in to speak on this topic?
We actually do. We have a couple of people. The first in line is Mr. Nathan Scott. Mr. Scott, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. Nathan Scott. It's amazing how much time the City Commission is willing to spend on a discussion of further expanding city government and advancing your self-serving agendas, as opposed to spending that time addressing the financial predicament of GRU with its mountain of debt and all the problems with general government in terms of the audit report and the general government finance department. It's just amazing. And misplaced priorities and more dysfunction. This whole discussion has been the dysfunction of circumventing process, the voters, and whatever self-serving wins you guys want to come up with. Commissioner Ward stated a comment about an ad hoc charter review commission, and Commissioner Ward would actually take the time to read the charter, and perhaps Mr. Nee could opine on this. The city charter does not provide for having an ad hoc Charter Review Commission, not in the charter. So again, with respect to the issue, no other similarly sized city has a dedicated research and policy department, and now the mayor and the Gainesville City Commission want to further expand city government by adding more commission staff for part-time commissioners. Mayor and the city commission are on a self-serving, fiscally irresponsible power trip to squander limited taxpayer resources. You've raised our property taxes with tax revenue increasing 14% over the last 2 years. Your electric rates have increased 20.5% since September of 2021 due to the ongoing dysfunction of mismanaging the mayor and city commission. Then you want to talk about spending money you don't have and expanding government and circumventing and trouncing all over the charter. GRU residential electric rates are now $163.75 for 1,000 kWh. Your debt has been downgraded 5 times, less than 10 years. Mayor, you stated that when you first took office, you didn't have to schedule a meeting or make a cup of coffee. That's probably indicia of why GRU debt has been downgraded 5 times in less than 5 to 10 years. It's just crazy. Comments were made about serving constituents that you don't listen to. Did you listen to 3 hours of the overwhelming no from Suburban Heights residents? Did you listen to the people that live above Laurel Park the other night? No, you don't. So this is all nonsense, and you're trying to bamboozle people with your delusions of grandeur of self-importance of city government. It's just wasteful. The CRC did not put any of these proposals on. They rejected strong mayor, they rejected salary increases for the commission, and they rejected additional commission staff. Your own can't-take political appointees on the commission. There was no political diversity whatsoever on the commission. And they rejected all your self-serving proposals. You don't like the result, so now you want an ad hoc committee. You want to reinvent the charter. It's just not good governance. I hope you have the guts to put this on the ballot so we get voted down overwhelmingly and you get a reality check. If people are not happy, they can't afford the oppression, how you oppress low-income people when you're making a discussion on spending. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Next up, Andrew Mitchell. Mr. Mitchell, you have 3 minutes.
Hi. I want to know, can you answer a question real quick? Is the city commission and mayor, is it a full-time position at this moment?
I think most of us work more than 40 hours a week, but we get paid $32,000 a year. The mayor gets paid about $42,000 a year. So part-time pay, full-time work.
Yeah, I think just as a citizen, I would just 100% say that before you start looking at if I had to do your job, I wanted to do. I probably am maybe less busy than you guys, and I have 8 people that work for me personally. I pay them though, out of my, earned money. And I would say that you guys should make the commission and mayor jobs complete full-time jobs. I would advocate that they are very, very, very highly paid jobs, so that we have people who are willing to do the unenviable work that you do and be properly compensated for it. But I think that should be the first thing. You should really have full-time jobs with full-time compensation, and then worry about getting full-time staffers. But absolutely, I think that the workload probably requires it. But I do think that you guys should have full-time jobs and full-time compensation before hiring other people to outsource what you've done, because one of the things was, hey, we can send people to neighborhood meetings, but their interpretation of comments is what makes the vacuum, not the comments itself. And people that vote for you want to talk to you, not to someone who's going to interpret their comments and relay them. So that's my plan, would be to first have full-time positions and compensation. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Mr. Mayor, that was our last commenter. The floor is yours.
Okay, anybody else here in the room with us that wants to comment on this item? Okay, thanks all for sharing your thoughts with us, appreciate that. So again, once again, the vote is just for the attorney to come back in consultation with the clerk on some potential language for a charter amendment to allow for more direct staffing from each city commissioner. All in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes unanimously with Commissioner Duncan Walker absent. All right, our next item is a Youth Services Division update. And it's my pleasure, thank you very much. Appreciate all the work on this. Just want to let you sneak off without getting the congratulations you deserve. So yeah, we have I believe, a presentation on this from Roxy. Glad that you're with us.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. So I'm going to go give a comprehensive overview to kind of remind everybody the Youth Service Division and how we presented it initially to get approved and what the purpose was initially. So to give that overview, youth services can be found in parks across the country. Many parks and recreation agencies see the value of Youth Service Division and what it plays in the community. Youth Services benefits the youth by assisting the youth in multiple ways, such as assisting the youth in completing community service hours, developing opportunities within the community, and making a difference and giving back to their community. And most importantly, making friends with similar interests and cultivating job skills. Youth Services also assist in strengthening college applications as well as by demonstrating community involvement. The big question here is, how do we make this opportunity happen through the youth services within Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs? Here's number one. There are local agencies and non-for-profit groups who currently offer these programs. So Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs Youth Service Division is looking for ways to foster these relationships and partnerships with them to see how we can assist in growing participation as well as getting the word out. Number two is also filling in the gaps, seeing what's out there currently and what is the current need, and then providing those services. Up to now, so we were just approved a budget of $350,000. And up to now, our current division status is that we've completed the job description for the division manager. And within that, we've also sent that to Human Resources. That job description is currently sent out to Cody and Associates for further review and to determine the actual salary of that job. We have also currently have a verbal partnership with YMCA, the Youth Center, for the youth services. And recently got notice that the YMCA will officially partner with the city to create a youth in government program, which will begin as soon as the youth service manager is in place. To give a little background on the Youth in Government program, it's a program that's been funded since 1957. This program is a Florida-run program which will allow us to give the youth an opportunity to learn more about the government processes and become a part of our community. This program will allow these individuals to not just learn, but assist in advising our community builders on programming that they would like to see throughout the city. In February, the YMCA will be hosting a meeting with Florida State Alliance, and the city will be present. One of the recommendations to date that we're looking at doing is currently we asked to staff 2 temporary employees. We would like to recommend changing the org chart to reflect 1 bus driver and a purchase of a 20-passenger bus instead of the 2 temporary employees. After meeting with local nonprofits and the YMCA, we have found that the greatest challenge is transportation for these youth. With the opportunities which already exist in our city, we have found that the best way to foster these partnerships and allow the programming to grow, we would need to be able to transport the youth to and from these programs. We believe we can purchase a bus and hire a driver without affecting the current approved budget. In regards to the budget, the way it's been broken apart is the first year's budget was to hire the manager, now looking at purchasing a bus and a bus driver, and hiring a bus driver. For year 2, when we get the full budget, we're looking at continuation of hiring the rest of the staff within that's been presented, which was a total of overall 7 employees, that's including the manager. And then within year 3 is where we're going to determine how to transition the Riker House into the Youth Service Division. But to clarify with that, that's going to be a long drawn-out process of conversations, because there's currently positions within the Riker House that there's vested employees in there, so the transition in the pay, which will change, will be a challenge. So we would need to then again bring that back in front of commission to discuss how we can do that. how and if we can do that at that point. So currently, we're looking at finalizing, building the youth service division, preparing and fostering all the partnerships that we can so that we're not behind on offering the services that are currently there. We're looking at ways to facilitate those services that are currently there and assist them by the transportation. And then as we get into year 2, we start picking up where the gaps are left. So if there are certain programs, like a mentor program, if we can't find a good mentor program that's currently out there on both sides of town or all over the town in all sections, we want to make sure that we can facilitate those programs. So if there's a mentor program far off west, but there's nothing far off east, then let's facilitate that. Let's meet the needs. So that's what we're looking at for year 2, once we're able to staff that. So once we get the manager, we're looking at being able to start taking the steps and filling some gaps, slowly but surely, and then in year 3, we should have that established, and we can start discussing the Riker House.
All right, great. Thank you for the update. Exciting. Mr. Schwartz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I love the ideas. The only thing I don't love is waiting until year 3 to talk about Riker House. We know from a couple of years ago that that's something that needs some work and for some things to be done differently. We have been reminded of that by the Auditor General. And I think this is our opportunity to do so. I mean, right now, we have a youth service that we're providing at Riker House. It's probably the biggest youth service we're providing as an active service. I know it's complicated. Believe me, I know it's complicated. And I don't want to rush in a way that breaks things. But year 3 seems like a long time. It feels like we're just punting and saying we'll worry about that later. We can't worry about it later. We have responsibilities for that now. So maybe even year 2, but year 3 seems, that doesn't feel like getting to it very quickly at all. And I think that there is pressure on us as a city to do it pretty expeditiously. So just put that out there.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the update. I very much like the address to the bus driver. That is probably going to be the number one determinant about getting young people involved, which is their transportation. So we absolutely need to have that figured before we go full force. I first want to say if there's obviously a difference between this is always so funny in terms of terminology. We talk about youth services. Some young people are comfortable with that. Some aren't. I've always thought that if we move forward by calling it child and youth services, because young people grow from children, right? And so I know that there's a different connotation with child services, right? Like it just sounds different if we include it. I would like for us to include it going forward because there's a lot of research and resources that talk about the importance of child development and as it pertains to youth services as well. So I would like us to use that terminology going forward, if that would be all right with the board. I really like a lot of the ideas, particularly the youth in government. I think that's fantastic. As at the mentorship programs, I mean, I want us to really model a lot of the best work that cities are doing all across the country. So I want to make sure that we're setting ourselves up to do that. As far as the Riker House conversation, I appreciate the desire to address that. I also went forward with this saying very clearly that I want this to move forward regardless of what ultimately this commission and GPD and our city manager's staff decides what to do with Riker House. Because I think that The service provided by the Record House is fantastic and amazing. I view this division as very much adding to more service to the youth in the city. So if Record House can get figured out on year 3, year 2, I have no doubt we'll eventually get that figured out. So for me, this is not a huge point for us going forward right this moment. But I am glad that that is a topic worthy of addressing. Secondly, I did want to talk a little bit. On Monday, we talked about allocating some $500,000 to a youth corps fund, and I just wanted to elaborate on that idea a little bit more. So essentially, the idea would be, and we'd have to figure out how to administer it appropriately. But with this fund, you could essentially have a direct hiring of I guess school-age students, people in high school, maybe middle school, to basically just like shadow city work being done, and it's almost like it's sort of like a mentorship program, but it's a little bit different because I guess the functionality is like basically trying to get more young people to figure out like what jobs could they have working for a city, and letting them get to see those jobs, not just like on a one-off, but like you actually have to show up to work and actually like be at the job. And I think that would be really awesome because we need to give young people in this city more to do. I hear that. I was at Commissioner Duncan Walker's town hall. That was something that was spoken about. You need to meet these young people where they are. And one of the big things, and I heard this from one of our officers, which is that a lot of these young people who end up getting involved in potentially criminal activity, it has to do with potential financial gain at the end of that road, whatever it is. Well, we're going to offer them a completely different path, which is financial gain and a potential to be introduced to a job that you choose for life, and one that's not going to put you in the path of the criminal justice system. So that's why I'm passionate about adding that. I obviously want to be cognizant of the capacity that we're being built. I don't want to put too many carts before the horse. But I very much think that is a project that we could work on in this coming year and work to administer. Because we've got to give these young people something to do that's going to inspire them outside of what they're currently doing. So just wanted to add more detail. Very, very fantastic work. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Silva. Thank you, Mayor. I think in terms of the Riker House, I agree, Commissioner Ward. It's been an issue for a long time. It does amazing work, but I think how it needs to be looked at, or how do we take it to that next step. I do believe that we should, whatever kind of changes, whatever we're going to do, I think we should have those in place and ready to go in the coming budget year, so that when we have FY 2023 budget, next year's budget, that those changes are made for that. So I think that would be taking this year and figuring out how does it work, how would those changes be made. I think the Auditor General's report, while there's nothing new in there, I think it does, to the Commissioner Ward, I think we do have to deal with it. We can't just let it kind of hang out there. So I think that does somewhat jump the queue of maybe where we may have had priorities in the past. So that's one area where I would like for us to kind of how we reimagine things to be one of the priorities. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I've spoken my hesitation about creating a whole division around this. I'm really excited about the partnerships that are being formed, which is what I originally said, like we should have a person doing, like just kind of fostering existing partnerships and programming that already exist, connecting with them, and then kind of acting as like a point person between the city resources and other community resources. I think that would be like the best use of it, and I'm not going to mince words. I'm not stoked about $700,000 a year. That is, it's a lot of money. Not to say that this is not valuable work, but I wonder about creating a whole division and that being our lane versus having someone coordinating people who are experts at this and being a resource for connection and communication and helping out with things like transportation. We have a bus system. We should be able to help with transportation. We have any number of transit options. We can help with things like that and kind of help coordinate with resources that we already have. I'm still not feeling great about adding a whole division. Because I think even in the research, the programming that we saw, it was either, the municipality partnering with a nonprofit that was doing all the work, or a county or a police department doing some programming. It was never the city as a whole taking on, I'm gonna say vague parameters. And I understand the mission, I understand our goal is to develop our children and our youth to be happy, successful members of society. Great. I still don't think this might be like the answer to that. I think we could do with like half the staffing to be at that coordination point, that coordination and communication and assisting with resources. Commissioner Earl, I love your idea about hiring youth to kind of be like, here, this is a job, this is what it's like to kind of build that work ethic and show them what it is. I'm like 99% sure we can't use ARPA money for it due to limitations. But it is a great program that I would like to see, and I think it's something that we could do. That would fall within our function of, we could have a hiring program. I think GRU does something similar for us grade school kids, where they like come by for a week during summer camp, and they're like 8 and 9 year olds. They're like, this is a water plant, have a helmet. And it's good because they get to see like, oh, this is how GRU actually works. And it's something, they know what a GRU is, they know what water and electricity are. So that kind of program, I'm all for. Like, that is great. And especially paying them so that, one, they have some income, but two, they have no reason to come back at 8 in the morning. But I just don't think it can fall under ARP. I'm not 100% sold. I like some of what's baked into it and its mission. I think we are, doing a lot more that we are, one, not the experts in. And two, we don't have to. There are already people doing a lot of this. My opinion remains that we just need coordination and having a point person. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So I've long been interested in how we can better serve the needs of our young people in that after and out of school time, including summertime. And it's true, we've done a lot of work on that. And Roxy, I know that you've been part of a good bit of that, and many members of your staff as well. It has brought a lot of people from our community together. And I think in that we have identified real gaps in service or barriers to participation. And at the same time, learned a lot about what is effective and not. I mean, there's such thing as throwing good money after bad in areas like this, and there are many circumstances of investing meaningfully in the children and youth in your community that significantly alter outcomes. I mean, measurably, significantly over a generation, changing completely the outcomes. And so I'm still very bullish on this. And, the fact that we're sort of at let's get a small bus and a driver so we can get a few people around, I'm not at all going to sort of pull the reins in. I still think we need to staff this out and allow you and your team to get us to a point where we can start seeing these meaningful outcomes. So, I remain in the same place. I am going to ask all of you to just be the slightest bit patient on Reichert House, because we're going to be told pretty quickly what is expected of us to do at Reichert House, which we'll absolutely need to do. And then if we want to do things above and beyond that, that's certainly under our purview. But within a couple weeks, and Ms. Bigby could give us a final drop dead date, we will have our responses back to the Attorney General's office. And by the end of this month, they will have their final report, including all recommendations. And then we will say, okay, thank you very much for those recommendations. We will get to work on them. And then about 18 months later, they'll come and check back with us and see how have you done on implementing those recommendations. Those will be our priorities for Reichert House. There's no question about that. It's the Attorney General who has a tremendous amount of power to either tell us how wonderful we're improving our city because of their assistance and participation in this auditing process, or we can get in quite a bit of trouble for not meeting those expectations and requirements. So let's start there. Let's start with what the AG says we need to do about Reichert House, and I think we have a good idea. We were part of those conversations throughout that entire process. And if in implementing those, there are also opportunities to accelerate the transition of the Reichert House, then great. But we really, and it's going to be a major, it's got to be a major priority of the city manager's office to take those recommendations and figure out how to affect them with all deliberate speed, because that's what we're going to be told we need to do. And so, let's kind of allow for the staffing space and financial commitment and all those other sort of elements that are going to just, kind of facilitate those changes. But I'm with you. I really, I want to get that to sort of the future look and phase and service of Reichert House, which, by the way, I think once we do that can reach more young people, especially reach more girls who we know, has been a more recent focus of Reichert House, but traditionally not. And so there's a lot of opportunity there, I think. But we've got to deal with those AG findings first. And so, yeah, Ms. Bigby, if you wanted to maybe comment on that and correct everything that I just said, or hopefully not.
No, I think that sounds fine, Mayor. And I probably, since you will be reviewing the total aggregate of responses before you send them back, and they're due, the drop dead date is December 22nd, and I don't like waiting till the 11th hour, so I think we should return them on the 21st. Management is going to get preliminary responses this Friday, but some of the issues may not be ready. So I need to know how many days you need for your review. And perhaps we make 17th as our internal deadline, and then the 20th to the 21st for your final review.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, it's accelerated no matter what. That's the way it is. But yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
And then so that will, once they issue their final report, that'll be the final public document. We can all take a look at that and kind of see where we are with Reichert House. And then I think it does warrant a follow-up conversation once staff kind of comes back and figure, I think that Ms. Curry is going to need to sit down with her folks and say, okay, what are we going to do to address these things? And then we can say, okay, besides these things, what do we want to do and then on what timeline? But look, I from the beginning, we knew that this was a new division. It's going to take some time to fit it into the rest of the organization, find the right people for the right job, and it's going to be critical early on here. You need really the right you know what I mean, that people that want to do this and are passionate about it. That's so critical in this space. And then you try to model those best practices that we have seen successful elsewhere that we think will also translate well engagement. So, you'll continue to have my support on that.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am, of course.
Members of the commission, clearly we will, in a thoughtful way, as we roll this out, do what we need to do to make sure that whatever concerns come out in the state auditor's report, we will address. We will address them appropriately and forthrightly. And we've spoken about Riker House. I spoke to the chief just a little bit this morning about it. He is, ready to kind of know when we're ready to sit and put a team together for a rollout. And so we are thinking about it, and it will not be a delayed process. As best we can move it along. But again, don't want to overwhelm the Parks Department. Pretty much what Ms. Gonzalez has spoken about today is not atypical in a Parks and Recreation Cultural Department anyway. It really is probably enhancing services that are already provided. The Riker House is a switch in terms of it's more of a social service, it's more of a support service. It's not necessarily park and recreation and cultural. And so it is a very different program, if you will. So some thoughtful and deliberate, activity has to occur before that's just transitioned over. But I do understand that there are other reasons driving addressing the Riker House and where it best fits, and we will address that as appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, I would like to clarify, because there is a lot of conversation on youth programming in general. And so Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs has youth programming. We're increasing our youth programming as we speak. We've just recently increased by 13% of programs within the last year in services for after-school activities and majority preschool-aged kids at this point. So we're starting young, eventually moving up and increasing the types of programs. We have Start Smart programs, which teaches each individual sport, but it teaches the parents to teach the kids how to play. So we're doing that to progressively grow and do that. We just hired an athletic supervisor that will start next week. We're going to start doing more athletic programming, after-school athletic programming. So those are increasing for youth across the city. But those are after-school activities and programs for youth, and we have for adults. When we look at the youth service division, we're looking for the at-risk youth. We're looking to service them. If you look at the positions that we're budgeted for, we're looking for counselors, we're looking for intervention specialists, things of such to service the needs there. So it's a different support. It's a different aspect. It's the supportive aspect for the community. It helps with GPD and how they're handling a lot of the crime lately with the youth and the increase of gun violence and all those things. So we want to support that with this division and how we get there in those programs. So when I sit here and say that we're looking for the gaps and the needs, we're looking at for that aspect of where are the gaps. So where are the mentor programs? How do we go out to the community and go to the locations of where they're at to assist? Similar to what a lot of GPD has, but how do we help them? What programs can we facilitate now to help them so that they're not doing twice the work? We're kind of helping in that aspect. So that's kind of where the youth services falls in comparison to our after-school programming and activities. So I don't want the confusion to say that we don't have these, because we are. We're picking them up. And then you look at even cultural affairs side, we're picking them up. We just had a spray painting mural type of thing going on for youth, for kids. So we're starting to pick up the programming slowly but surely, but we're getting there without flooding the waters too much too soon. I wanted to make sure we can point out the differences.
Yeah, thank you. That's so critical that you did that. I appreciate it, not just for us, but so many other people that might think that what we're talking about is just another after-school program. And it's not that. It's very much not that. Yeah. So thank you, Hardin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Gonzalez, I want to point out to everybody that there is among a group of folks a fairly wide understanding that Gainesville parks are about conservation and are about, creating wonderful spaces to look at and to walk through. but then we really don't do much with active recreation. And the skill set that you bring to your office is exactly, I think, what we need to move our city forward in that regard, and to get us at a place where it's really obvious that we do active recreation, and that is what our parks are about. And the work that you all did just last weekend on the holiday kickoff with multiple locations and in between locations was really awesome. I continue all week long to hear really great feedback about that. My family had a great time out of that. And I want you to know that your work is being recognized by a lot of folks who are really glad to see that we're doing much more active recreation intentionally. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So no particular motion right now, but I will open it for any members of the public that wish to speak on this topic. Start with anybody here in the room. Mr. Shepherd?
I want to start by saying I'm Donald Shepherd, and I want to start by thanking you for bringing it to our Commission and Mayor's attention and board, because this is just the need in our parks and recreation, our police department, my city reviews. I haven't heard this much input from the Park and Recreation Board towards wanting to help this program and that program. So we thank you for bringing that. I have a gentleman that has been trying his heart out. His name is Victor Dawson, and he takes children from the Riker House and other programs, and he takes them out of his own pocket and takes and shows these kids a good time. The bus situation, Mayor, I agree with you. We need to use our GS or schedule time for that to happen, and we need more money to go to our parks and recreation. We need more money to go to our city commissioners and mayor. If all these other mayors are getting this big money, why ain't our mayor getting this kind of money? All the work that's put in with our mayor and commissioners, and they're only getting paid, I see, minimum wage, $42,000 for all that they do. A mayor does, or a commissioner, well, $38,000. I don't know, but we need to increase those salaries. And that's all I have, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Adam, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's, whoops, am I on wrong? Yeah, okay, sorry, there's nobody online at this time.
Okay, anybody else here in the room that wants to speak to this item? Okay, back to the commission, Commissioner Hassan.
Thank you, Mayor. On the active recreation, and I think it's both cultural things and athletic, and we do have limited resources, and I think as we're looking at kind of future budgets coming up in the year, I think that is an area that we have a base set up already, and it's expanding it, but that's an area I would like to see us expand with our limited resources. Looking at that is how do we increase the amount of active things that we are doing in there. So as we're kind of looking at our parks budget and just things like that, I think that's, we need to do more of that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, just a closing thought. Again, thank you. To see where we are now is just wonderful, and I really think that having it with having this division within Parks and Rec is going to be amazing, because people already are familiar with the Parks Department. People know that, hey, if I feel like Gainesville needs another, I don't know, a disc golf course, like they're going to go, they know where to go and make those recommendations. And I just feel like right now, anytime you go on the weekend, whether it's youth sports or rec sports, like everything is just packed. Like everything is just filled to absolute capacity. So, what I see long-term vision is that this is going to help us figure out where we can continue to invest those parks dollars to really just broaden the availability of people having fun in this city. So again, kudos for all the work, and we're really looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And just sort of popped into my mind, it's sort of more of a warning than anything, but One of our neighbors who lives in University Park is planning on challenging the commission to a softball game.
I'm on the physically unable to perform list.
We'll make sure that we delay that until you are. I do understand that you are quite a softball player. Yeah, he informed me of that. I also know we have Jeff Cardozo that is potentially on our list. Anyway.
Find the ringers.
I told him that we could, but whatever ringers we find, I think that the actual commission itself will detract from any skill that they might bring to the table. So anyway, Madam Clerk.
I'm no good.
But you have to support.
I'll be the cheerleader. I'll bring some pom-poms.
So I couldn't say no when he approached me that, right? There's no way you say no to that, but it was a little foreboding that we might publicly have to get humiliated. Who are you playing? He's going to put a team together.
It's it's called the Young Viejos, so it's a senior group of 45 and older. I actually started that league down in Coral Gables, and that's where this gentleman played.
Yeah.
And so he reached out to me, and I was like, oh, I remember who you are. So yeah, so he wants to do what he did down there over here and compete with commission and city employees.
And I think he wants to embarrass us. I think he feels pretty confident about their odds. Yeah. Okay.
Let's challenge him to a sport of our choice.
Okay, on to our next item, candidate qualifying. So this is something that's been bouncing around for a while, so, I think the city attorney's been working on this as well as the clerk to look at, what it might mean to potentially change some aspects of how candidates qualify. So I guess, Mr. Nee, I'll toss it over to you to start us off.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. This is something I think should have come back to you earlier. So, but what I want to make sure is that when it comes back to you, it comes back to you right. It's my understanding that the commission was interested in expanding the manner in which candidates can qualify to run for a municipal office, particularly to add a petition component to it. And in looking back at the meeting that was held, I think back in April or so, I'm not sure if the commission was fully apprised of sort of the lay of the land that's required. But in short, on the Florida statutes, there's an election assessment that's required to run for municipal office under section 99.093 of the Florida statutes. That election assessment is an amount equal to 1% of the annual salary of the office sought, and it can be avoided by a potential candidate by filing of a statement of undue burden under oath. There's no standard as to what undue burden means, so it's easily accomplished. And that's the only statutory requirement in order to run for a municipal office in Florida. Now, we can have other qualification requirements of our own. For example, our charter provides for a residency requirement. You have to be a resident of the district or the seat you wish to seek for 6 months prior to the time of qualifying. And that's how people qualify right now. They pay the 1% or file the paper, and they attest to the fact that they live in the requisite area. If we want to add a petition requirement, we can't use a petition to avoid the election assessment or a statement of undue burden. Could we have an additional requirement of petitions? Certainly. Could we have additional requirement of a qualifying fee if it allowed for a petition alternative? Yes, there's case law on that as well. It could be some difficulty if you wanted just to have an additional qualifying fee without an alternative way to pay it. But if there's a qualifying fee, that's a reasonable amount with a petition alternative, that's been upheld by the courts as well.
Yeah, let me clarify that real quickly. So what I'm hearing from you is that we are statutorily obligated to do the 1%, period. If we wanted to say there's an additional 1% or a petition, that could be an option. There's nothing precluding us from doing that.
Correct.
Okay.
Can I say something?
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but technically we've been calling an elections assessment a qualifying fee, and I think that's where some of the confusion has rested. We've already updated our documentation now that it actually says elections assessment versus a qualifying fee based on that statute.
Okay.
And that's different from the county offices. Under the statutes, there's an election assessment, and there's a qualifying fee, and there's a party fee for those partisan offices. And the statute provides for a mechanism for petitions to avoid all of those fees or assessments, I think. Not the case for the municipal election assessment, because statutorily, they give potential candidates the way to avoid it by just claiming it's an undue burden, without any standards therefore. So, I guess that's the direction that if we can get from you, we can put this together, I think, rather quickly. I think our ordinances can allow for, if you want, an additional requirement for a certain number of petitions. The question would then be, how many petitions? Is it different per the at-large and mayor as opposed to the districts? Do the petitions have to come from the entirety of the city, or for a district seat, would they come from just that district? Whether that number of petitions is a percentage of the electors or a flat number that you choose. All of those things, I think, are within your control, and that's the kind of direction we would need to get. Bear in mind that collecting petitions is difficult, and I think it may be particular difficulty collecting petitions from a district seat alone, because I'm not sure how many people know what district they live in, unless you go door to door to collect them, and I think that has its own potential difficulties these days by going door to door. But that's certainly within your authority. And then if you wanted to have a fee that could be relieved through petitions, what would the amount of the fee be? The amount of qualifying fee, I would suggest has to be somewhat reasonable. It can be a percentage of the salary, or it could be just a regular flat amount that you choose. I would caution against it being more than a small percentage of the salary. But if you wish to encourage a petition process in order to try to get a candidate that has a level of engagement with the public, it would have to be enough so that people are motivated to do the petitions. The petitions themselves would have to be verified by the supervisor of elections. She has control of the books with the signatures. She's not able or willing to relinquish that to us. She is not required by statute to review our candidate petitions, but our current supervisor of elections has acknowledged that she would by contract with the city. That being said, right now she's required to review petitions for referendum petitions and for state, county candidate petitions, and required to charge no more than, I think, 10 cents. For us, that wouldn't hold true. They've done a study, and it's her conclusion that to verify a petition costs about 30 cents of staff time. That's the amount that she would require to be paid in order to review candidate petitions for municipal election seats. And
per submittal, right? Not per validated petition, but for every petition turned in.
Now, to be fair, once you hit the candidate's the threshold, they stop. So if you need 100 and you turn in 150, and after 120 you got enough, they'll stop and charge you for that 120. I'm sorry.
No, they're just getting in here.
Now, would she be open to some situation where the candidates are only charged 10 cents and the city agrees to subsidize the rest? That's all, again, within your control if you want to direct us on what to contract with the supervisors of elections office. I think it's all the sort of data points that are up in the air for you all. You let us know what you want in that, if anything, then we'll get that pronto, recognizing that qualifying is June. And so if people are going to want to collect petitions, they're going to need to know rather soon to get started, because it can be a difficult process.
And that's
especially now.
That's done through ordinance?
Yes, our ordinance, we can apply the qualifying requirement. Our charter says they qualify. The residency requirements in the charter, this is otherwise qualify as indicated in the ordinance.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have Adrian, then Raina, then Harvey.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to kind of refresh, the county has a 4% of their salary for nonpartisan, and then 6% if it is a partisan seat, and then 1% of the registered voters in that district, or registered voters who are voting for you to qualify. I think we should still move forward with the candidate qualifying through signatures. I think it's a way to ensure people are talking to voters. I think we can move forward with the 2% qualifying fee, and then that could be a qualifying fee of the salary of the position, and that could be, you don't have to pay that if you get 1% of registered electors. in whatever voting district you're in. So if you're in District 4, it's only District 4. If you're in citywide, be citywide. I do think we should put a caveat in there that I think a lot of other places do, that during redistricting and during census, it can be anywhere in the city. Because we don't know where the districts actually line up. So it's kind of a free-for-all during those periods. I also think if the 10 cents is charged and then we just subsidize at 20 cents, we're looking at hundreds of dollars. It won't be our cost. It's not a whole lot, but I think it keeps it reasonable, but also gets people to do the signatures. But I think it's a better way. It really just gets people out there. So those are my thoughts. Thank you, Mayor. And I think also, I think we should try to have this, if we do move forward on this, the first reading of it in January. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So actually, my one question was like, review paid by whom? So, yeah, 30 cents. So I did math. So if you are a district seat, you either pay $3.58 or you get 224 signatures and you pay $67 total if they're like the full 30 cents. Okay, fine. If you're an at-large seat, it's a very different story on money, and it's like a $90 difference between just paying it outright if it's the current 1%, and if we move it to 2, which I think is a better threshold to kind of encourage the petition. Yeah, it's a lot of money at that point. I have to say this. I'd rather collect petitions than and pay $268 in full, and that's like unsubsidized by the city, than do $700, which is what it would be. Then it balances out one versus the other. If the city wants to subsidize like the 2/3 of it by 20 cents, I think it's still cheaper than a runoff. If only because I think we've seen plenty of elections where 3 to 5% by people who just like, yeah, I can't pay for this, and like throw their name in there, force a runoff because that 5% mattered. That less than 10% that was taken by folks who weren't campaigning sincerely or seriously makes all the difference, and then we have to pay for a runoff. Runoffs are expensive. However you do them, whenever you do them. So I think at that point, us subsidizing the 20 cents and the candidate paying the 10 to review their petitions, I think that's fine. I don't think that's a huge burden after collecting. And I'm thinking again, for me, I collect almost 900 petitions, and then I would pay $90, ish, to get them reviewed, and the city covers the rest. That's not a huge burden after getting 900 signatures. Or I pay $700. It's still within the realm of if you are campaigning and trying to get donations and actually trying to do a campaign, it should be okay. I do, however, if we can get it done by January, great. If not, if it comes if it's February 16th, or 15th, if it's February and we haven't done this yet, I think it should be for the election after 22, it should be for 24, because it's just not fair at that point. I think giving folks less than 6 months to figure this out, or actually no, because you have to qualify within
June.
Yeah, so giving people 3, 4, I can't math.
It'll depend on how long it takes the supervisor, whatever time frame she gives us to have them in to review.
Yes, because that shortens it even more.
And considering she's also going to have to review the county and any other races that are in there.
Yeah. So with that time constraint, yeah, if we don't have this signed by the mayor by early February or mid-February, I think it should just wait till 24. We should still finish, but the effective date being 24. Yeah, so I think 2% to pay off is fine. I think petitions are the way to go, just to make sure someone's sincerely doing this, and that the city should pay the 20 cents while the candidate pays the 10. Did I cover everything? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I love the idea. I think that petitions are they're not the easiest thing in the world, but it's totally a possible thing. It indicates that yes, this candidate is actually for real about wanting to be elected to this position, they're out doing the work and knocking on the doors and talking to people, as opposed to just waking up one morning and saying, I think I'll do this. I think it's a good thing. I thought it was a better thing when we were talking about it in April than I do now, because we already have 3 people filed for positions that are to be elected that would have to qualify in June. I'm concerned about placing restrictions, guidelines, whatever, on people who have already filed. That's a concern for me that I'm going to have to think about before I vote for the ordinance. It was out there as a possibility since April, but the fastest we could do this is the third Thursday in January. I have some concern about that, when we could have even more people filed by then. That it's placing restrictions and barriers on people who didn't know those were going to be there before they filed. I have a concern with that.
I was going to make a smart aleck comment about a guy who doesn't have to worry about it. I won't do that. I'll reserve my comment. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's a fair concern, Commissioner Ward, and April 2021 is when we get direction, and it's upsetting that it's 8 months later. I know it's fine. I appreciate you bringing this back. I think that still gives people 4 or 5 months to be able to do it. Also, I think if we are placing this on the first reading in January, I think the clerk could send out to anybody who has qualified that, hey, this passed on first reading, here are what you're going to have to sign, so they can start. They can start before it actually passes for second reading too. I think.
Well, if we know exactly what the form's going to look like already.
It would just be the form that whatever the state, there's like a basic state form.
Okay.
So the form is already designed, so it's not, and we could even, I don't know if I want to tell people, I think if it passes on first reading, then I think that may be a time, so that gives people more time to do it. So, seeing no other, I guess, I would move that we direct staff to come back with changes to the qualifying, where 1% of, you have to collect 1% of registered electors in the district you are running in. So it's for a district race, that's whatever that district is, at large is at large. With a caveat that during redistricting period, I know I've had to word that, but other places do that, it can be taken from anywhere in the city. You can, and then if you don't want to do the ballots, then you can do a 2% qualifying fee. And then we would charge 10 cents for each one, and we would subsidize the difference. And this would come back for a first reading in January as part of those other election changes we had.
Second.
Okay, motion second. Good.
Yeah, does that include the increase of the fee?
The 2% qualifying.
Okay, I'm okay with petitions, but I'm not going to vote to raise any of the election consideration fees.
Okay, we can split that up. Yes.
I won't support it unless we have to qualify. I think this is all or.
Well, that's why we split it.
I mean, I won't vote. I wouldn't support doing ballots if we don't actually have a qualifying fee on the other side.
Right, that's what I'm saying. If I split it, if that part, to do that part first. Then,
all right.
Yeah. Okay, so let's open up for members of the public that want to speak to this particular item or motion. Mr. Shepherd?
Thank you, Mayor Paul. Part of ballots, I'm not in favor of these ballots because they have, in the time I've been trying to be mayor or commissioner, and seeing other commissioners fight to take and get these numbers, for the amount of pay that it takes in pays, it's really not worth $42,000 for all a mayor or commissioner has to do. It's really not worth the time. So I don't know where anybody wants to be a mayor now, hearing that you're only getting $42,000 a year, and take the harassment that your mayor and commissioners get by the podium from the public. there's a lot here. I can have a lot to say, but I can't think of everything. I know my heart has been in this for the 12, going on 13 years. And for somebody to be on a board and make a decision for a certain person to not be there, that has put in the dedication and the trust of the people, and then to be not elected to that position, is a shame of our city. It's a shame for the clarity of being a mayor or commissioner. They are substantial people who are sworn to oath to the word. And I've been that for the years, and I want just the opportunity to be a mayor so that I can get my plans, which I've been addressed to the Mrs. Walker, Duncan Walker, and others, of my intent of what I'd like to change in our city and in our county. With that, I think my time's up. But this has been my drive. So I don't know how to say, but I wear this sign as a people representative proudly. I like to hear from the Chamber of Commerce or this board, these people that are here, so that I know where their intent is and where they can hear my intent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shepherd. One foot in front of the other member. Adam, got anybody?
Mr. Mayor, there's nobody on the line at this time, but if you could read the number, that'd probably help.
Sure, 1-800-742-1099. Again, 1-800-742-1099.
Give it 15 or 30 seconds and we'll see what happens.
I was telling fifth graders science jokes last night to earn the right to smoke a marshmallow next to a campfire. One Adam's walking down the street, bumps into another Adam, says, "Hey man, you just bumped into me, made me lose an electron." First Adam turns around and goes, "Are you sure?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm positive."
Personally, I bear no resemblance to that. In case it proves water.
You're not going to believe this, but they didn't think it was that funny either.
It doesn't look like we've got anybody calling in. We do have a caller for general public comment when you're done.
Okay, thank you. In my defense, all of the questions that were being asked were physical science questions because they've been studying physical science. That didn't make it any funnier. Okay, I've got a motion on the floor to add the petition element and change the qualifying, sorry, not qualifying, what is it called now?
This is a qualifying.
Qualifying fee, okay, from 1% to 2%, and bring this back for first reading in January.
This is an addition.
Mr. Mayor, before we get there, we do have a late caller on this issue.
That's fine.
All right, if you're ready, Mr. Nathan Scott, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners, Nathan Scott. So I do believe that there ought to be a signature petition qualifying method that would support community engagement and probably work in favor of getting some better governance in City Hall. So again, I'd like to add that. I mean, qualifying fee is great, but the message to people, and I know you guys got quite the little self-starting machine, but I think people ought to have the option to qualify by future petition or by hardship waiver, and I think that's what I wanted to add to discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
All right, that was the last comment.
Thank you, Adam. Madam Clerk, did you want to clarify something? Okay. So we're going to split this out. The first will be to increase the qualifying requirement to 2%. All in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No. That motion passes 4-1 with Ariola in dissent and Duncan Walker absent. And the second is for the petition portion All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion passes unanimously with Duncan Walker absent. Okay. Next, we have public comment. Adam, let's start with you. Any general public comment? And then I know we have someone here in the room with us that wants to speak now. Go ahead, Adam.
Let me ask you to read the number one more time while we do one more screening. It looks like we may have somebody who's here, but I want to do the screening first.
Sure. 1-800-742-1099. 1-800-742-1099.
Is there anybody in the conference room, sir, who's going to speak on this issue, on general public comment?
Yes, but I expect it to be a conversation. So I want to go ahead and let you go and then give us the time to address the rest.
I'm going to take a gamble here. Mr. Scott didn't call in before for general public comment, but I don't know if it's remaining. Let's see. Mr. Scott, are you here for general public comment? Do you want to take your 3 minutes?
Yes, I am. Thank you. Good afternoon, Matt. But again, with respect to the General Policy Committee, you guys have spent hours now discussing primarily self-serving proposals to circumvent the Charter Review Commission. It's not good governance, folks. It's not good governance. It's not fiscally responsible to keep city government to see their own whims, to create a fight film, if you will. It'd be cheaper for the citizens of Gainesville to each buy a copy of Sim City so you guys can go develop utopia. But what we really need to be focusing on is critical issues facing the city of Gainesville, particularly the amount of debt and GRU, the state audit finding. You guys just sweep that under the carpet. It gets no discussion. It's met with excuse making. Originally, when the state notified you of the audit, we wrote a letter to the state telling them that their concerns are misplaced and all politically driven. Well, basically what had happened was that the state audit findings basically substantiated everything that the citizens of Gainesville have been saying for decades that you have negligently ignored. It's just not appropriate for you guys to continue to ignore your constituents, continue to expand city government, and do whatever you think you're given a mandate to do by a small majority of voters. I mean, in any case, at-large seats are elected by about 6.5%, 7% of registered voters, and the district seats are 2 to 3%. And I hope that changes because again, we need good governance at City Hall, and we need change at City Hall because you're neglecting the farm. As evidenced by the fact that you continue to raise our property taxes on low-income households, hardworking Gainesville families, and businesses that can't afford these increases. Property tax revenues increased 14% over the last 2 years. You've raised our GRU rates, which are already unaffordable. GRU electric rates have increased 5% since September of 2021 due to ongoing dysfunction and mismanagement of the Gainesville City Commission. Those electric rates, residential electric rates now, are $163.75 per 1,000 kWh. Yet you guys don't seem to be fatist about that. You continue to oppress low-income households, hardworking Gainesville families, and local businesses with these unaffordable rate increases, and you don't care. You all have a Marie Antoinette, let them eat cake mentality. It's really poor governance, commissioners. It's morally wrong. Morally wrong what you're doing. You act like, you're the Illuminati, like you know what's best for everyone. Really hope you put some of these self-serving proposals that were rejected by the Charter Review Commission on a ballot to see what people really think about you. Because they're not happy. Your neighbors are not happy with you. You're 3 hours of overall no from Suburban Heights, which, oh, by the way, there's another S3 hit there.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Appreciate it. Thanks for sharing your thoughts again.
But you have concerned about your constituents. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay. Anybody in the room with us today that wants to speak to general public comment? This was anything that wasn't on our agenda. Mr. Washington, I think that's you.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon.
I came to clear up what might be a misunderstanding, miscommunication that may have occurred between city managers. that basically we weren't ready. The Bravo wasn't ready to go. We are fully ready to go. And as a matter of fact, we're excited about working with corporate to make sure that this particular Bravo, if allowed to go forward, specifically addresses the needs and interests of the community. So I put together a summary or update as to where we were. Hopefully you've had a chance to take a look at that. But we're fully ready to go. I think there was a miscommunication. We asked that the public, well, as you recall, you wanted us to go in simultaneous tracks while we're doing public comment, public engagement, also to prepare the contract. So we're kind of working on simultaneous tracks. We wanted the time to get the comments that you have before you back to corporate so that they can have a chance to digest it and see if these things can be accommodated. Because the thing we didn't want to do is lose credibility with the community by promising things or agreeing to things that we could not do. So as you saw, the community has several different things that they're interested in doing, but we just want to make sure that Bravo's on board so that if we have the chance to come back to the community, we can accommodate. So that's the first reason. And the second reason is that I communicated that the option for the plaza that we're looking to purchase is coming up next month. And so I let staff know that many times, previous staff, because that's the only time constraint that I'm dealing with. I understand that the money that was allocated for the grocery store was, I want to say redistributed to, or was it? Okay, good. Good, because we just have a kind of a, I got the landowner to push back the option once. Maybe a little bit difficult to do it because I'm also trying to line up additional monies that I'm bringing in or we're bringing in order to update that entire plaza. So we don't want to just do Bravo. We want to make it a destination that the community can be proud of.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Washington. I think that's where the heart of the misunderstanding lay. The commission has made no decision whatsoever to move in any other direction than you've already heard us talk about at a public meeting, right? Okay. Nothing has changed. We made some decisions about ARP money the other day, but less than 50% of our ARP money. So we didn't decide on all 32 million. There's a lot. In fact, there was a long list of things that we want to come back around. We wanted to take some immediate action because, and I know that you probably feel the same way, there's a lot of people out there that are in need, and we wanted to get that money out, distributed, and working for folks. But there's more than half still left to be decided by the commission. There's still GCRA money that we could certainly have a discussion and allocate, and we could use general fund money if we saw it as a priority. So every option that was available 3 months ago is still available to us today. I think a lot of how we move forward depends on what package you're able to put together and bring to the commission to convince the commission that there is a public interest in us continuing to move forward and figure out some way to partner together to make this happen. I have not heard any commissioner speak any differently than seeing this as a need in this part of our community and wanting to find a solution that will work. And I know that you had some challenges in accomplishing the same goal. So, you know, I'm speaking for myself right now, not my commission. We had a long discussion about that earlier today. But, you know, I think if you continue to work in that direction with the partners that you're working with and then bring to us through the city manager, you know, a package, a proposed term sheet, you know, how this is going to benefit that area. then we're going to be receptive of it. And you know, I'm happy to work with the city manager and the clerk to get something scheduled. January is very busy, we already know, but if we have to pull out some time to meet and talk about this one morning or something like that, I know that we'd all be willing to do that. All right, so I think let's just keep moving along and let's get to that point where we can make some decisions.
Okay. Well, I'm very appreciative to the commission, and I look forward to working with City Manager Curry and keeping everyone apprised, especially Commissioner, in which it's located. Would like to try to.
Yeah. Well,
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Commissioner Santos, you wanted to get in?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I think, to your point, I think that there's still some questions out there and everything in that sense, and I think working with the city manager, and then I think, and to the mayor's point of the packet, or whatever the kind of final thing is, and then I think we need to make a decision on this. I think it's January 6th. I mean, I don't know when your closing is, but putting on the January 6th meeting, I think we need to either say yes or no on this, and kind of, we have to move past the NDA on this project, I think.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, the only thing, you know, I'm coming in and Mr. Washington did send a communique, an email on November 15th, basically saying, paraphrasing, that we were in a pause session, of course, a pause stage. You were working on your community engagement. You still had some to go. What you stated in that was that there was a parallel track regarding the contract, but I will say to you that when I came in, there was nothing happening relative to the contract. And so, you know, in terms of any due diligence, in terms of any survey, in terms of any of those things that go into the background before you even get to the contract work. I know the city attorney is here. In my mind, when you're working on a contract, in this situation where you have other commitments outside of it that you are obviously dealing with, there should be a commitment of funds to show good faith in terms of working towards that contract. And right now, there is not a commitment of funds. There is no allocation. There is no award of funding. And for me, that is a concern to work, you know, in that space to pull contracts, get a contract together and not have an award of funds. And so for me, that is a concern.
Okay, that's important. Thank you.
The way I remember, because I was mad, I definitely remember, we had voted against parallel tracking. We wanted to do the due diligence on you and Bravo first, and didn't want to parallel track, just write the contract, because as the mayor said the other day, we have all agreed to put $3 to $5 million aside for a grocery store, period. That money exists and it will, because whether it be this one or another one, we agreed to setting aside that money. What we did not agree to was starting up the contract, whether it be for you or for someone else, there'd be a general, and Mr. Nee's gonna get upset because government contracts are not fun. There'd be some blanks that you'd have to leave, given that it's ARPA money, given that it's city money, GCRA money, whatever, what have you, and whatever conditions you have on, but I want to say like 70% of the contract could have been parallel tracked. We did not do that, but funds, by our vote anyway, should be set aside, or starting to set aside.
There's been no direction to the contrary.
Yeah, well, that one, yeah.
Yeah.
So we said that one a while back, that's still there, so money should exist for a store, hopefully yours, since you seem ahead of the pack. But that's the way I remember, because I was very mad about not parallel tracking. So I think that might be, when we started the due diligence component, and you wanted to talk to the community more. So I think that's where we kind of stopped.
Yeah, and I was looking to see if the auditor had her hand up, because she was responsible for overseeing the due diligence portion of this. So Ginger, do you want to jump in here?
Great, thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. We were to review management due diligence efforts, and we did collect some documentation, and then the project was put on hold. So as I'm meeting with interim city manager Curry, I would like to collaborate with her to share the information that we both have so that she can be the best informed possible and make the decision going forward. And then I can certainly present you all a memo once we get complete due diligence information. If there's any risks that we know, we'll bring it to your attention immediately.
And with that, Mr. Mayor, again, Mr. Washington has a timeline that he's working towards, I believe. I'm not sure what the date is. I know it's January, and I don't want to build up an expectation that I know I may not be able to meet. I don't want to disappoint the board, but what is your deadline in January?
Thank you for asking that, because that's the next point that I was going to make. My contract has the 15th of January. And so, yeah, my contract has the 15th of January to close on the plaza. And there was, in the term sheet that it was not formally presented to commission, but was discussed, things like $30, $15 an hour living wage jobs, etc. We're on board with all of the proposed items. I don't know if those have been, I don't know if you've seen them. I guess you're going to see those soon.
Well, Madam Clerk, let's put it on the 6th. All right, and we have between now and then to work through all of those items. It doesn't need to be in a final contract to approve, but certainly a term sheet that the commission can approve. I think if you have an approved term sheet, as far as closing, that should give you what you need. And if we're not okay with the term sheet, we can figure it out at that meeting. And what changes need to be made. Okay.
Okay. All right.
All right. Any questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Washington.
Thank you.
Appreciate you
Thank you
here.
very much.
Okay. Anybody else for general public comment? Okay. On the member comment. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of things that I wanted to bring up, both with motions, two totally separate issues. The first thing I wanted to address is, I think you all know that we had our legislative delegation had a meeting earlier this week, and the purpose of that was to let folks know about a local bill that is being filed to change the structure of our county government. Certainly, we as a commission have had our differences with our colleagues across University Avenue, but when it comes down to it, we generally work very well together, and that has been the case over very different sorts of makeups of commissions between either side of University Avenue. I have tremendous respect for what they do across the street. I believe that is a mutual respect. One of the bedrocks of what we do in local government, particularly in our area, is a respect for local governance and for home rule. And I believe this local bill oversteps, once again, the bounds of legislative authority. And I am disappointed but not surprised to find this again becoming a campaign issue, because I think it is simply a campaign stunt. I think that's what we are being asked to consider as residents, as neighbors of Alachua County, and it will have an impact on our commission as well in the long run, because it impacts our neighbors. Having said all that, I want to move that the Gainesville City Commission support the Alachua County Board of County Commissioners in opposition to legislative efforts to interfere with our county's home rule charter.
Second. Motion and second to propose the local bill that's being proposed by our local delegation, and especially I think it's being introduced by Representative Clemens. That's right. Primarily, yeah. Okay. Any members of the public wish to speak to that motion in the chamber, room, basement? Adam, I will turn to you and repeat that if you want to speak on this item, you can call 1-800-742-1099. Again, 1-800-742-1099.
I do not, sir.
Okay.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes unanimously. Go ahead.
Thank you. And my other item, you all will inevitably recall that a few months ago, we had discussions about surrounding the requirement of vaccination for city employees and the idea that we would give a $250 vaccination bonus, for lack of a better term, to city workers who did get vaccinated. My understanding is that we are not, that because of rulings from the courts, and from actions by state government, that's not a thing we can do as a sort of vaccination bonus that we had discussed and had been brought forward to us. But I wonder if it's possible, if there is money budgeted for that purpose, if it would be possible to go ahead and expend that money anyway to our city workers, to our community builders, regardless of whether they were vaccinated or not. I'm not suggesting that we do it right now to make a decision on it, but I move that we ask the city manager to research that and let us know in January what the budgetary implications of that would be and what the other ramifications of that might be. Just to bring us back information on how possible it is and what it might look like.
Okay. I don't think you really need a motion for that, but we can do it through a motion. Anybody want to second it?
Is this for all employees, regardless of vaccination or not?
Correct. Anybody want to second it? Motion dies from a lack of a second, but that does not preclude you from asking the city manager to give you some information on whether that could happen or not.
If you would, Madam Manager, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm not saying I do this.
I hear you.
But, yeah. Okay, anybody, any other member comment? Y'all have an incredibly restful, happy holiday. I know we just gave you a bunch of work. I'll be there to work with you, Madam Manager. You don't, I'll be there. But yeah, I hope everybody can spend a little time with family and decompress a little and enjoy some good food and some excellent Gasparilla Bowl football on December 23rd.